Hello everyone, my name is Sergeant Z-Dog and I'll be your host today. I'm the newest of the Battlestar Galactica Deadlock tournament winners. Joining me will be Sir Wagglepuss III, who won the last two tournaments. Today we'll be doing part 1 of a tutorial series on multiplayer Battlestar Galactica Deadlock. In this first part, we'll be covering the basics of fleet composition and an example of each. Enjoy.
That is definitely Gottipig. That is definitely intentional. And hello, yes, I am Sir Wagglepuss III, and I am here to help.
So, kind of wanted to go over, as I said, just kind of the basic. So we're going to be going over the perspective of multiplayer, and that's just simply because single player is way more forgiving. The AI will let you get away with a lot, and there's very little that when you're playing against the AI will punish you that it would have been the right thing to do in multiplayer. Pretty much everything you do in multiplayer is a good idea in single player. Yes, the AI will definitely let you get away with murder on a mass scale. Watch all of the streams where I have campaign campaign runs and how few ships I lose compared to how many ships the Cylons lose. The AI is just simply not that good. By contrast, in single player, there's a lot of things you can do that if you try doing them in multiplayer are an incredibly stupid idea. So there's a lot of things that you can do in single player that I don't want to teach people to do, because even if it works just amazingly well there, it would be a massively bad idea here in multiplayer.
And yeah, it's worth noting that for multiplayer itself, you don't have a lot of the crutches to work with that you will have had with single player. So there are now officers here that are giving you plus 10 posture to give your Colonial fleet nearly 8,000 meter gun range so you can melt everything before it comes close. In multiplayer, you're going to have to trade shots at some point, and it's gonna get ugly.
Yeah. In fact, most Cylon ships will outrange the Colonial ships. So, if you're in range, they are in range. Even the extended ranges on some of the Colonial ships, it's not much of a margin there. You have to just do an amazingly good job to actually play the range advantage, whether you're Cylons or Colonials.
Yeah, there's some exceptions to that rule, but I imagine we'll be going into that as we go into more individual ship tactics.
Yeah. So, continuing on with the basics, the game loosely follows rock, paper, scissors. If we want to call the rock our gunships, that's going to be the Revenant and the Cerastes for the Cylons, the Minotaur and the Heracles for the Colonials. These are pure gunships. They sport one thing, and that is a boatload of guns. And they can all use their high speed to chase down the enemy carriers, which kind of makes the carriers our scissors here. Rock beats scissors. Now, going up from that, what covers up rock? Paper. Our missile boats, the Janus and the Ranger, are the only two truly pure missile ships. And those really can kind of run away from any gunships and just pound them with their massive stacks of munitions before the gunships can get in range. There are a lot of hybrids that follow into this category. So the Cylons have the Argos and the Battlestar fall very nicely into this category. Where there are a lot of missiles, but those two both are as well carriers. And carriers are scissors, so they will cut up our paper, our missile ships, by just simply using their squadrons to avoid enemy munitions. Shoot them down, you use chaff from the sweepers or the Scorpion sentries to shoot up mines, and then be able to strike from even further away than the missile ships can do. Now, I talked a little bit about, the hybrid ships, the Argos and the Battlestar. A lot of ships fall into this category of being hybrids. So, obviously, the Battlestars are all hybrids. They have lots of guns, they have squadrons, they have missiles. They do some of everything. Adamants, again, say Adamants and Arachdes both really. They have guns, they have missiles, they have squadrons. They do everything. There's lots of ships that fall into these hybrid categories. And that makes it difficult to just say, okay, this is this, this is this, this is this. It's going to be very circumstantial, and you're going to have to figure out in a given situation how do you need to play a given ship. And that's one of the reasons I don't want to cover it all right now at the very beginning, because it gets very complicated as we get into these nitty-gritty details.
Yeah, and it's also worth noting that when it comes to building gun fleets, missile fleets, or squadron-based fleets, if you take these three concepts and put them into a triangle, which will point in each of these three directions, if you want to build a gun fleet, you're not just going to fill a fleet with nothing but Minotaurs or Revenants and call it a day. What you'll do is you will focus more towards the gun fleet on this triangle. You will still have elements of munitions and squadrons present in the fleet.
Yep. And before we go any further, I did say we're doing the basics here, but you very much need to know the basics of all the ships before you even really try and approach this. So if you're not comfortable with what any given ship does, go into the skirmish on the main menu, or if you're in the multiplayer, you can go into the practice here. They're more or less the same thing. I think the skirmish. No, this has all the different match types as well. So yeah, obviously multiplayer is just as eliminate all, but if you wanted to practice for the campaign as well, there's a couple of different mission types. But go into the skirmish, go into the practice, and play around with the different ships. Make sure you really know at least the basics of what they all do. We'll go into the advanced usage stuff here in these training videos, but at least for the basics, you really need to go into the practice and figure it all out yourself. Make sure you're comfortable using the Cylon power sliders because they don't have a simple posture setting like the Colonials do. Make sure you know where their guns are. We'll talk about the advantages and disadvantages of those gun placements later on, but at least know where they are before we get into that. You should not look at a ship and go, I have no idea what that does. If you're still at that point, go play the campaign more, hit the skirmish, hit the practice, then come back and look at these videos. I'll have them posted up to YouTube down the road. You can, of course, see them in the view on demand here on Twitch while they're still up here. So, what makes a good fleet? The important thing to do when you're creating a fleet, whether it's Colonial or Cylon, is have a plan in mind. Having a backup plan is even better if you can do that, but you need to have that first plan. You need to go, okay, I want to win by doing X. And yes, maybe that's not what you follow once you actually get into battle, but you need to have that goal in mind, because if you don't have a goal, you'll just kind of be flailing around and your opponent's going to pick apart your different fleet components with very little difficulty. It'll happen great ease. This is where you see those matches where an experienced player takes on a new player and just tears them up. Even if the new player's fleet was good, because he doesn't really have that plan in mind, it's very easy to pick them apart. So with that said, you can go with the pure fleet, like we were talking about. You can go with the the gun-focused fleet. You can go with the carrier fleet. You can go with the missile fleet. And those all work very well. Or you can go with a more balanced fleet, kind of something that sits kind of squarely in the middle of that balanced triangle and tries to do a little bit of everything. And that works very well too. I don't want to discount that and be like, oh, you don't have a plan now. What are you going to do? You very much have a plan, but the plan is a lot more complicated. And we'll get into that here in a bit. Like Waggle said, if you have something like a gun fleet, you're still going to need, even though the gun fleet counters the carrier fleet by being able to just rush in and beat the crap out of the carriers that are too slow to run away, you still need something to fend off those fighters. Whether that's, some of your own fighters, whether that's debris mines, flak, whatever. You need something to really fight them off long enough that you can get into range, because an enemy fleet can still be 20, 30 kilometers from you of distance that you have to cross before you can engage them with your guns and tear them up. And if you can't survive to make that, then it doesn't matter that you technically should counter them. You're still dead before you got to do it. Same thing, missile fleet. You need enough fighters to make sure that you can tie up the enemy fighters, so that your missiles can land, because that gun fleet will have some fighters or some flak to shoot down your missiles. You need to make sure you have a way to get past that. Um, and a carrier fleet, you need some way to discourage an enemy gun fleet from rushing in on you, whether that's EMP mines or just your Cylons, and you're like, screw it. A Gorgon or a Talon can run away from any gunship in plenty of time. I'm just going to run away faster. And so you bring a fast enough ship to do it. So you always have a little bit of, you're never all the way to the far corner of the balance triangle. You always want to come at least a little bit inward to kind of round your fleet off a little bit.
Yeah, because if you go all of the way to one of the corners of a balanced triangle, you are now venturing into what we call meme fleets, which is something that will be covered. I don't know if we'll be covering meme fleets at any point, but that definitely won't be covered now.
I think I would like to get into meme fleets, but yeah, that's not going to be right now. What would I class Phobos torpedoes? Goat Pig asks. Phobos torpedoes. Phobos itself is pretty balanced. It has a really powerful munition slot since it can fire every other turn, but it also has some firepower, which firepower being on top is pretty good considering a lot of ships don't have any firepower on bottom, as well as the squadron slots. So Phobos are pretty hybrid balanced. They're very supporty. It's hard to throw them fully as a single category. Phobos as a torpedo, again, it's kind of really more of a support thing. You don't really want to have a fleet of nothing but that. You'll have problems against more balanced fleets. So, against a themed fleet, like, I've got my fleet of 3 Jupiters and an Atlas, or my fleet of 2 Jupiter 2s and a Jupiter 1. Against that sort of thing, Phobos as the torpedo is, of course, perfectly successful, but that's really a case of meme 1 counters meme 2, and is its own discussion that we'll get into some other day. So, building a gun fleet. We're going to start with some Colonials here. Now, if I'm going a pure gun fleet, I'd probably go Heracles. You've got a little more guns than you get on the Minotaur itself, and you've got the flak, which is really nice for stopping the missiles that are really what counters this. Guns, of course, are countered by missiles, like we said earlier. So the Heracles really does a good job of giving you everything you need. You're going to want to have your ships positioned up on the front of the board, because your job is to rush in and kill the enemy before he can kill you. Don't feel bad about bringing some Minotaurs. So, if you want to say, okay, I've got some flak in now, but I'd like a few more guns, feel free to throw one in. It's not that bad. But the enemy will have some stuff that can pick you apart if you're not careful. Feel free to grab something like an Artemis with some Viper 2s. It doesn't take too many Viper 2s.
If you want Battlestars.
Go ahead.
If you want Battlestars to mix in with the gun fleet, it can be helpful to go for Minotaurs if you want some of the bigger grade Battlestars like Minerva and up. If you want to run Heracles, you'll generally want to bring the Artemis itself due to it being cheaper. The personal Waggle recommendation is that for an 8k match, you're going to want to bring at least 6 squadrons of Vipers. So that's going to mean probably 2 Artemis and an Atlas, and then the rest of the fleet you can focus on making the gun element out of it. So the mix between your Heracles, your Minotaurs, and depending on whether you bought any Minervas or not, if you want to play the range advantage on there. If you don't want to go for the 6 Viper loadout, you're gonna need to bring a lot of debris mines.
Yep. And so here, and this fleet kind of nicely outlines all of these. I'm not saying you should use this fleet exactly as is. This is kind of just sampling out what you might have. So you can see we've got a total of 6 fighters. I brought debris mines just because 6 fighters will not win a fighter battle. But after you lose the fighter battle, or even to just forestall when the fighter battle even starts, you can use these debris mines to kind of keep the enemy fighters at a distance, keep them from really coming in and striking at you. Probably more flak here than we really needed to bother with. So, since I'm already bringing flak with the Artemis, swapping these 2 Heracles out for a couple more Minotaurs, not necessarily a terrible idea. Frees up more points to get that 6th Viper 2 instead of a Viper 1 here. And with all of this flak, hitting this gun fleet with missiles, which should counter this, is still going to be really difficult. You're not invulnerable. Missiles obviously can come in from above or below the flak, or from more angles than you have available to counter, but this gets you a good start. Now, if we were to look at Cylon gun example,
I think just before you go into the Cylon gun example, a very important point that needs to be brought up for any kind of fleet is recon.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Because this fleet doesn't have a lot.
Yeah. So this fleet that you've got presented here in front of you, what have you got in the support slot for the Atlas?
It does have a Raptor. I did that in large part to save points, because a sweeper would go very nicely in here as well.
For this particular fleet, I would argue that you probably wouldn't need a sweeper due to the fact that you've got
so much flak, yeah.
Flak coming from 2 elements of your fleet at once. That Raptor would end up being your recon for the fleet. Now, it is ridiculously important to have some form of recon in your fleet. Now, the fairly typical example that floats around the community of recon in a fleet is slapping in a Mantacorn or a Nemesis at the front of your fleet and let it fly off to ID everything and then go to its doom. That is one way to do it, but it's not the only way.
No.
But it is critical, because if you're running a gun fleet and you're rushing straight in and you don't know what they have, you could be flying directly into your hard counter and have no idea until it is slapping the crap out of you.
Yeah, well, and even if you're not running into your hard counter, even if you are running into a situation that you can win, if you don't have Dradis lock on the enemy, the guns are so much less accurate.
Oh yeah.
I think this actually came up in both of my last 2 streams where, even though I was in gun range because I didn't have that Dradis lock, it just was doing very little damage. This is especially apparent, if you're using, large, heavier guns like the heavy guns or the Battlestar artillery against smaller ships, like a Nemesis or a Mantacorn or a Cerastes or a Talon. It's very apparent in those cases, but even when you're just shooting at like base stars, which are huge, you can still miss a lot of shots just because you don't have Dradis lock. And I think all of the gunships have comparatively poor Dradis range. Mantacorn and Heracles both do. The Minerva does. Berserk has bonus to its gun range, but it's not actually a pure gunship or very durable for one either. So it doesn't really count, even though it's got, average Colonial Dradis range. The Revenant, correct me if I'm wrong, does not have very good Dradis range, does it? That's like 6k max?
Compared to Colonials, it's nice, but as a Cylon ship, the Revenant's Dradis range is very meh.
Yeah, I want to say it's like 6 kilometers max, which when even the Cylon secondary scouting ships can hit 9K, 6 kilometers is not very far.
Yeah. The Revenant can do. It's about 7,000 meters on its Dradis range,
7,000. Okay.
which is it's long range, but for a Cylon fleet, it's really not.
Yeah, it's very short relative to what you
If
can
you're
get in Cylons. Um,
playing against a Colonial player, it's enough Dradis range. If it turns out you're playing against a Cylon player, odds are they're going to see you first. And as a Cylon player, that is very bad for the enemy to see you first.
yeah, especially since Revenants, of course, have no natural defense against missiles like the Minotaur, and against concentrated enemy squadrons, are still easily picked apart. They'll put some hurt back out themselves, but they will die to enemy squadrons.
Yeah.
When they can't even get radius range on the enemy carrier. So, let's look. Well, I guess if you create a fleet with no ships in it, doesn't actually save.
Who'd have thunk it?
So, for the Cylons, of course, we have the Revenants are great. But of course, you may want to bring even just some Cerastes in. As we mentioned earlier, the Cerastes have quite a bit of Dradis range. Wow. I don't think I ever really looked at just how big the size difference was there. That is tiny by comparison. But yeah, the Cerastes, of course, can give you quite a bit of extra Dradis range, and they have quite a bit of firepower and armor for the number of points that you're putting into them. Of course, when you're bringing these in, the Cerberus is great for giving you some capability to fend off enemy missiles and enemy fighters, just simply because the Cerberus. Here we go. There we go. War Driver. Fully decked out, the Cerberus comes in at just 1340 points. And for that, you get 3 Raiders and a War Driver, which will take a long time to knock out.
It's worth noting that in Cylon fleets, especially at 8K, due to the nature of the Battlestar variants, you will find that you are hovering a fair amount of squadrons regardless of how you build it.
Very true. Yes. Because, even if you went, let's say we did drop the Cerastes and we used our squadrons to scout, or even just accepted that we weren't going to have. Whoops, I don't know what I just added. Oh, I added a Kratos. That's not what we want. Even if I went a massive 4 Revenants, which I would not recommend. This is probably more Revenants than you really need.
I personally don't recommend any more than 3 Revenants in a fleet.
Let's see. I don't. Yeah, we can fit an Argos in here too. So even if we did this, which gives us a pretty decent 9 fighters, I can't quite do that with the full Raider, but I think, can you throw in a, not a PCM, but a Comet PCM? Does that fit? No, not quite. Anyway, this gives you 9 fighters here off just these 3 ships, and you've got a lot of guns off 4 Revenants. Hey, Garfield. So yeah, you never really want to go full on one thing. You see, we're always balancing it with enough of another thing to balance out our fleet overall. Revenant is an AA boat. Revenants are supplementary. For the points, you're better off with something like the Cerastes, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't use your Revenants to help a fighter battle if you have one around.
From personal experience, the Revenant being used in an AA capacity, you can do it. There is planning that needs to be done for it. It requires setup. You have to engage the enemy fighters in gun range of the Revenant to make sure that the Revenant itself is not taking return fire. It can put out a disgusting amount of damage on squadrons if it can keep its angle and it's not being shot to pieces whilst it's doing it. If you can make the setup happen, the Revenant is an excellent AA boat. If you can't make the setup happen, it's going to get eaten alive.
Yeah. Anything with lighter medium guns, if you can have it support the fighter battle, do it. But don't do it if you're don't shoot at fighters when you could be shooting at capitals is usually going to be the case. Capitals being the thing that actually wins the battle are almost always the better target. But, if you've got a carrier fleet, which we'll go into, definitely use your guns to support your fighters to help you win that fighter battle. It will make the difference, and that can easily be the thing that wins or loses you the match.
So, just taking a quick look at this fleet that we got here on the gun one for the Cylons, we're looking at the thing, okay, we got 4 Revenants.
Which is probably too many.
It's got a tasty amount of firepower. Like, this thing is going to be turning Battlestars into soup. It's got 2 Cerberus, it's got a ton of fighters, and it's got an Argos as well, so it's got a little bit of munitions presence. Yet, you may be thinking, that's a pretty nice gun fleet. It's going to get torn to pieces by any kind of munitions. There is nothing really protecting those Revenants, so the Revenants now get hooked.
Yeah, you've got 2 war drivers, which you really need to be helping with the fighter battle as much as possible.
So, personally, what I would do to a fleet like this is I would drop one of those Revenants, and I would free up a little bit of points, and I would slot in a Arachne to go with those 3 Revenants, and I would put a Scrambler PCM on there to go with the Revenants and provide constant missile immunity from anything but torpedoes.
Ooh, that is a good idea. I do like that. And of course, torpedoes not much of a threat to Revenants anyway, just because.
Yeah.
Of course, Revenants are just like, I'm just gonna not be where the torpedo is, if that's all right with you. Let's see, that does force us to drop back a couple of Raider prototypes. Probably worth it anyway. Are the Raider prototypes faster than or are the Raiders faster than Raider prototypes? 360? Yeah, 300. So, but even still,
Raiders enjoy a massive speed boost over Raider prototypes. The finer points of the actual squadron combat and how that works out is definitely a video for another day.
Yeah. But here we can handily add in, you still get a whole another squadron, which goes a long way to make up for not having Raiders instead of Raider prototypes on 2 slots, and of course that common PCM providing a pretty significant amount of AMD even after the war drivers are shot down.
Yeah, I mean, you can go for the Comet or you can go for the Scrambler. I'm personally a bit more partial to the Scrambler because it's consistent and I can set it up. And
Scrambler breaks locks on anything that's near it. Probably the better move. You can always just sit in the Scrambler until all the munitions are gone and then move on.
Yeah. So what I'll do with that, with a Scrambler on an Arachne in particular, because it's got such a fast reload, I leapfrog between Scramblers. So I'll hop from one to the next, to the next, to the next, and I'll kind of lay it out like a path of where I want to go.
Yeah.
And I'll just have the rest of the ships go with it.
And of course, you can even lay those Scramblers out ahead of you and travel into it if you needed to. I'm not sure I'd recommend that though, just because how many of these do you get? Only 8, so I'm not sure I'd want to broadcast where you'll be.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to start trying to lay out a path, and even if you tried to lay out an actual path, that can take a lot of time, and the idea of a gun fleet is to get in there.
Yeah.
What you could do, you can go with this and keep the Argos with its regenerating munitions and the extra squadron slot. Or what you could do is you could pull out the Argos and you could put in a regular base star, then you could go for the upgraded squadrons and different munitions like AP or torpedoes on the base star itself. This is where we start coming into a little bit of variation, so depending on what you want the fleet to actually do.
And of course, that gives you another, you lose a fighter slot, but you gain a support squadron slot. So, you're not really losing much. And of course, yeah, even after now upgrading all the fighters, we still have 390 points. Can handily throw in, say, Comet PCMs. Send
Yeah, you
those
could turn that base
return to
star
sender.
into a full. Yeah, you could turn that base star into a full utility base star, and you've got 3 Revenants and an Arachne's worth of firepower being covered by the round Scrambler, and you've got the 2 Cerberus with enough squadrons to tie things up. And if you use those squadrons to tie up the enemy in gun range of all of those gunships, you can just melt them.
You know what might even be interesting here is at this point, swap the Arachne out for a Phobos. Phobos still gives you the every other turn munition slot.
Except now you've got the utility of a Phobos.
Yep. Which, isn't going to hurt you and could end up helping you and being the thing that makes the difference, since you've got the points for it anyway. So.
But regardless of whether you want to go for the Argos here with the Arachne, or you want to go for the base star, the regular one, the idea is you've identified, look, munitions are going to tear apart this gun fleet. I need to swap something out and fix it before munitions just tear this entire thing apart.
Yep. So, speaking of munitions, let's go into munitions. Instead of a Raider on the Phobos, maybe a Vespid. I would say no. You're not going to be able to win the fighter battle. So an extra Raider will help you stall how long it takes your opponent to win, whereas the Vespid will get, I don't know, maybe 1 bomb run. And honestly, the only things that you'd want to do a single bomb run strike on would be enemy gunships, which you're probably going to win that fight anyway. So,
yeah, 3 Revenants are going to win most gun arguments. Even if they've got stuff like Heracles and Minotaurs, the mobility that Revenants have, they dictate how and where that battle is going to take place. If you blindly run in face first with your Revenants, they're going to die. But again, that comes a bit more into specific ship usage.
So, let's go into creating missile fleets, which is a much more complex thing to do.
Yeah, the joys of Colonial missile fleets. They are a little bit of a pain to make work correctly.
They are. I'm not even going to try and touch on the Ranger right now because that's really so much more of a supporting ship than a star role. Whereas the Janus, it says Venerable right here in its class title, and that's really honestly pretty true. A big part of that is just the fact that, even if these munitions are so much slower firing than what the Ranger has, carrying 3 slots instead of 2 really does make a difference. So anytime you've got multiple munition slots, throwing in a little bit of armor piercer, always a good move. The armor piercer is a little bit faster. Though actually, now that I think about it, you're probably better off doing it more like that, aren't you?
So, with regards to the actual missile deployment on ships, this is like a little side Wagglepuss fact. The order of munitions being fired is dependent upon how you actually assign the order when you fire. So if you fire the armor piercer first out of your 3 munition slots, that is what will come out the tubes first.
And so by way of explanation to everyone, why did I put those in the slots that I did? That's because by default, if you use the new ability to just right click on an enemy ship and then fire munitions, it'll fire them in the order they're in here. And since the armor piercers are already faster than the guided missiles, this will help make sure that the armor piercers land only just barely before the guided missiles. And the reason you want to do this is you don't want an enemy ship that's spinning. You don't want your armor piercing missiles to hit one surface, the enemy ship finishes its turn, and then your guided missiles hit a different surface. That ruins the point of bringing the armor piercers. So, letting the armor piercers fire last lets them get to the target just barely before life is good for you. So, of course, we need to bring some fighter cover here.
Yeah, I've noticed that you've put 3 Janus into this fleet, and the first thing that comes to mind is we're going to have a lot of Atlas, or we're going to have a lot of Artemis.
Yeah.
Because...
And of course, you know, we have to go with the Atlas because it's just such good bang for your buck. It's really hard to go wrong with this. Now, what would you say you would go with for the support slots here? Because I would be inclined on the support slots for my Ranger or for my Atlas to maybe go sweepers even.
Taking one look at this fleet with its complete lack of any kind of Battlestar, that would be sweepers.
Yeah, because you are super susceptible to return munitions fire. And I'd probably even, on this Mantacorn, I'd probably say like a debris mine or maybe an EMP mine, one of those two.
I might be partial to a PCM, depending on how many scramblers.
I think with the 3 sweepers, you could probably handily get away with not bothering with the PCM.
That being said, looking at this, you've got 6 very high quality Viper Mark IIs from those Atlas. You've still floated a lot of points. I'd probably trade out one of those Atlas and bring in one of the flavors of Battlestar for this. And I'd have it out more towards the front of the fleet so I can try and preempt some of the incoming munitions.
Yeah, I'd say definitely we have the points. Bringing in a... we could actually, you know what? A Minerva here? Getting the extra missile slot?
I was originally thinking the Artemis, but with the points that you've got, yeah, you could probably pull off a Minerva with this.
Yeah, some extra guns
won't be so hot, but you will have more offensive output.
Yeah, more offensive output. The debris mine helps make up for the fact that 2 of our fighters are honestly not very good. And then some extra guns to punish any, heavily softened by the time they get past 3 Janus and a Minerva's missiles. Because that's 8 guided missiles and 3 armor-piercing missiles. If you can't soften something up pretty heavily by then, you're doing something wrong, I think. And, we can probably do something more like this. That way the Atlas can get, have some flat coverage from the Minerva. And you can use your sweepers to protect the Janus. Gutpig asks, how would I build these kinds of lists in the tournament setting? So the tournament setting is a little more complex, and I would probably go with a more balanced fleet in the tournament setting. Maybe tending towards even a carrier fleet. Just because, as we saw earlier, and we'll see in a moment here, there's a lot of fighters that end up in really most any fleet. Trying to rush down carriers with guns is really difficult to do. Not that it isn't necessarily the right thing to do, just that it is the difficult thing to do. And of course, in a tournament setting, you want reliability more than anything else. Yeah. And of course, this fleet here, for example, it's only 1 ship off from being tournament legal. So this, I could handily drop out one of these Janus for a Ranger. And the damage per round actually goes up with a Ranger compared to a Janus. Because a Janus is firing, a munition every, or 3 munitions every 4 turns? Is that right?
Say again, sorry?
A Janus can fire 1 munition or can fire 1 munition slot 3 out of every 4 turns.
Yeah, though you will
Whereas a
not
ranger
often
can
do that with the
fire
Janus.
2 munitions every 2 turns, or in other words, just 1 munition slot can fire every turn. So you get better munitions per minute out of a ranger than you do a Janus. And then, of course, a ranger also has, I think, a little bit more gunpowder than a Janus. And more maneuverability. It's a smaller target that's harder to hit with torpedoes. So you get a little more offensive capability out of the Ranger, but it's not got the staying power that the Janus has.
with the damage output for guns between the Ranger and the Janus, it's a different kind of application. The Ranger's firepower is all along its broadside. The Janus is set up for being above and pointing at a target.
Yeah. And of course,
Taking a look at this
they're
fleet,
different calibers as well.
yeah. The question was asked as how would you make this tournament legal? Me personally, if I wanted to make this tournament legal with the 2 max of any capital ship type, I would drop one of the Janus, I would drop the Minerva, and I'd probably bring in 2 Artemis. And I would use those Janus as flanking elements and protect them with the sweepers.
We're actually
That is probably how I'd go about this.
So you said you dropped the sweepers?
I'd probably want to keep the sweepers if possible, but point starts to get a little bit squiffy.
Yeah, we're at 8,100 right now. We could maybe drop the AP missiles.
Probably going to kick the bucket.
Just drop the Mantacorn completely.
Yeah, drop the Mantacorn and have a lot more flexibility in what we're laying out with the ships that we've got.
So let's see. That gets us Viper 2s on the Artemis. And 220 points swinging in the breeze, but
you can put on the debris mines onto the Artemis.
Yeah, probably a reasonable idea. Though honestly, at 8 fighters, you're not doing too terribly. That's probably not how you'd actually position these. Probably something more like, I don't know.
But for what it's worth, trying to make an effective colonial munition fleet
yeah.
in a 2 capital ship max is a bit difficult because you'd really want 3 Atlas.
Yeah, 3 Atlas, the 3 Janus would be nice. There's a lot that's difficult about this. The fact that you just simply, this is supposed to be a missile-focused fleet, but you honestly only have 6 munition slots.
That being said, you've got the potential to immediately drop about 240 points of damage on a target with those 6 slots, so it's not to be sniffed at.
Bit of a hefty turn 1 output there when you can drop a Jupiter 2 without batting an eye.
Yeah, this is the kind of fleet that takes a look at an Argos that wants to try and run away and decides not today.
Yeah. Yeah, when you can make the Argos think, whoops, I just, wrong one. Let's see. Let's try that again. So, obviously we can't talk about a Cylon munition fleet without talking about the Argos. That just doesn't exist.
Making munition fleets with the Cylons, you have a ton of flexibility in how you want to do this.
Yeah.
Even with tournament legalities.
Yeah. This is actually probably in one of the more interesting places to put the Kratos, just because the Kratos is like, oh, you got close to me with thing A, allow me to dump 10 heavy guns on you.
Yeah, Cylons are actually in the interesting position with the Kratos being a thing that you can effectively make an aggressive missile fleet. If you roll 3 torpedoes on a Kratos, the idea is you want to get up close and personal, get into knife fighting range where they can't dodge, or you can just completely bypass the flak on Battlestars. which has this weird thing where you've made a missile fleet, but you want to get in the face.
Yeah, and see, my experience with the
typically
Kratos has
speaking,
been you want to
missile
let them
fleets
come
in general
to
for the
you
Cylons
still.
will revolve around this idea of you want to stay the hell away from them, and you want to spread out and get all of this missile vomit, as I like to call it, coming from as many angles as possible. Now, you can do it through long-term repetition with things like the Argos that just have this constant presence, or you can go with a bit more of a disposable way of doing it, a bit more of a bursty way, and using a lot of cheap base stars that can just throw it out there, but they've got some time on the reload.
Yep. So, if we wanted to look at something like that, you can handily go here and, go big or go home, right? So here, and just throw another one in, because who doesn't like pancakes? All you can eat pancakes, folks. Right here, all you can eat pancakes. We got it. We know you want it. And I don't know, what do we want? Like an Arachne? I don't know if we have the points for an Arachne. Let's say something like a Talon has an entertaining fighter, or actually, this probably is
more fighters.
Well, and I was actually going to say this is actually probably one of those times where I would actually prefer the Nemesis over the Talon, just because you're now being able to have munitions from yet another angle for the enemy to have to deal with.
We have 12 munition slots. We want them firing as soon as possible.
Yep. And of course, with 12 raiders, it's going to take an enemy a while to chew through them all.
And I wanted this to be said early in any of these videos, that this has to be said now. If you field a base star, you are obligated to make them spin.
I actually talked about that the other day. Spin to win is very much not just a fun thing to say, but is very true as well, just because it lets you...
It has practical applications.
Yep.
But it is also a very majestic thing to do.
No, we actually ran short on points. Alright. I guess we'll run heavy raiders. That's fine.
Just by a casual 430.
It shows you how close I was paying attention. This is probably actually one of those cases where you might be better off with the war drivers, just to redirect enemy missiles and go with raider prototypes.
I mean, you could go with a full loadout of raider prototypes, but go with a full loadout of war drivers to back them up. So they're constantly slowing down the enemy fighters, and even the humble prototype raider can get work done.
Yeah.
And then the spare points that you get from that, you can start getting a bit more fancy with these munitions instead of running like 12 guided missiles.
Yep. Let's see. So that'd be a raider prototype and a raider prototype. This should go back to being a war driver.
One of my personal favourite and almost practical missile vomit fleets is to just straight up run 3 base stars with a pair of Argos, one on each flank. So you've got these 3 base stars in the centre that just spew out a ton of missiles as soon as I get Dradis lock. And you've got the 2 Argos at the sides that keep on going around and put on the pressure. And look for those juicy flanks.
So let's see, if we go with nothing but raider prototypes, which not sure how I feel about that, but
we're going old school here.
Okay, so that leaves you with 350 points. What do you think? Like, I'm scared to put nothing.
AP missiles and torpedoes can start appearing. So like on about 2 of them I'd put armor piercers, and on 2 of them I'd find spaces to put torpedoes on them. But I'd still keep regular guided missiles in the mix there.
Yeah. Torpedoes have the advantage of being only 40 points. Really, it's very affordable. So there you go. And actually, probably even throw in, I don't know, Comet PCM to be really rude, or just another torpedo.
Comet might be expensive. I'd say a Scrambler on the Nemesis, just to be that guy.
Yep.
Because, hey, scramblers are dirt cheap and really, really good, and people should use them more.
Uh, so Ghostpig asks about using a Hydra. Mm,
I mean, you could, but the problem is that Hydra would also be a recon, and the Hydra would not be around for long.
yeah, yeah. The Hydra is unfortunately not very good.
It's so just to kind of get this out there. Support ships in general are not very good for multiplayer. Just to get it out there, the Celestra and the Hydra, they're pretty nice in single player, where the AI has no restrictions for using the Hydra, and the player can just get a Celestra for free in the fleet because of the support slot. They're nice. In multiplayer, they are taking up one of your slots, and they are taking up points.
Yeah.
Where you need to be having offensive output or proper recon output. Like, you can try and use a Hydra for recon, or you can go ahead and use a Nemesis with a Scrambler that can do recon, and then once it's done, it can hack things. It can use its Scrambler to drop onto a target, compromise its tech bay, get through their hacking defenses in a heartbeat, and cripple a ship. Once the Hydra's found something, it's once every 3 or 4 turns, it's dropping the reload speed on your fleet, which you're not going to notice too much.
Well, and even
And
still,
then it
if you've
dies.
used it as your recon element, it's got to crawl all the way back too before it can even
Odds are
start
it's
doing
going to
that.
die.
Yeah, and it's they're super soft. The hit point recovery is okay, especially if your opponent has torpedoes. It would be really nice to have. Um, but yeah, the Hydra is just not going to do much. The Celestra can be okay supporting Minervas or something. The only one I would ever really bring to a multiplayer match and wanting it to be competitive would be the Gorgon. And we'll get into that actually here real soon. Let's go ahead and start into carrier fleets. Actually, I'm not even going to bother creating another one. Because I, of course, have carrier fleets already, so let's...
Yeah. I mean,
here we go.
whilst
This
you're
is
building up.
actually probably a good one to look at. So...
Oh, okay, that's a fleet.
Yeah, so we have here 5 Atlas with Viper 2s and ARPs on each one. And then, just to round things off, an Artemis, which, okay, brings me 2 more Viper 2s, same as what I'd get on an Atlas, though lower evasion. But then the EMP mine, because of course, what counters carrier fleets like this? Gun fleets. What do gun fleets not like? Mines that are getting in the way of them being able to rush straight in. So this actually works pretty well here. I don't know that I've set them up the best. You probably want to have your Artemis kind of in front to absorb missiles, or maybe you swap out one of these ARPs to bring a sweeper or whatever.
It's worth noting that this fleet is one of the occasions where if your enemy decides to do something not recommended, like bring nothing but torpedoes, this is the one time where it would kill you.
Yes. Yes, Atlas and Cerberus both have an incredibly hard time avoiding torpedoes, which, unless they're bringing nothing but torpedoes, isn't too bad. They will run out of torpedoes before you run out of armor. Atlas, by the time you use each side and your front, just are ridiculously tanky. It's really hard to kill these things with torpedoes. It's really easy to hit them, but it's really hard to actually kill them.
Yeah, but if someone brings a Kratos with 3 torpedoes on it, oh, you're gonna be losing an Atlas or 2 before the day's out.
Oh yeah, for sure. You'll probably at least 2. He might even, just because of the sheer rate of fire, being able to pull down 1 armor facing before you can turn enough, he might even be able to pull down 3. I don't know. Be interesting to try, or at least do the arithmetic at some point. I'm not going to do it now. And of course, a Kratos has 10 heavy guns. That's more heavy guns than you get on 3 Atlas. So if he drops 2 Atlas with torpedoes, he still has enough guns to outgun the remaining 3.
Yeah, but with carrier fleets in general, you want to build a fleet in such a way that you have enough squadrons to drown your opponent. But you still need to have reserves in place to deal with the 2 other threats. You need to have an option for dealing with guns, and you need to have an option for dealing with munitions. That fleet that was 5 Atlas and an Artemis can absolutely drown an opponent in squadrons, but munitions are gonna suck.
Yep.
If the Vipers get tied up or they happen to be torpedoes. And if a dedicated gun fleet gets in range, like 2 or 3 Revenants are going to start pulling apart that fleet because the Atlas just can't return fire. So when you make a carrier fleet, the Waggle recommendation on this is I'd say at least 8 squadrons if you're Colonial of Viper Mark IIs if you're looking for air superiority.
Yep. So here's another fleet I have already built up. I had to tune it up a little bit because when I last edited it, I made some mistakes. And this one, I sacrifice a little bit of my fighter strength to break some Taipans. As long as you're not fighting another carrier fleet, that's a good idea. Gives you a lot more firepower against enemy capitals. Without sacrificing too much firepower. The sweepers, of course, do a wonderful job at just saying F you torpedoes. And then, of course, I have this Mantacorn here. I put an EMP generator on it. Probably better off with actually bringing the EMP mine, just because the EMP generator is so short range. But, again, this gives us that scouting element that tells us, okay, I need to kill that thing first, which is a really good thing to know. And, of course, the EMP generator says, oh, hey, look, that's 3 Heracles coming at me. They're going to come at me a lot slower and be shorter ranged when they do it.
And as a side note, an EMP generator on a Manticore can actually be used to protect it from squadrons.
Yes, which is a good reason to go ahead and bring that on the Manticore, because, of course, the Manticore doesn't really want to be in gun range, let alone EMP generator range of enemy capitals. Whereas this far ahead, it'll be, at least 2 turns before your fighters are here to defend it, because, of course, turn 1 you'll be launching, turn 2 they'll still be traveling. So they won't be where your Manticore is until at least turn 3. The Manticore will be charging in to get Dradis locks. Enemy fighters can handily be on this before your fighters will be. So, you can pop that EMP generator to neutralize enemy fighters.
Yeah, and the bonus fun is when squadrons get hit by an EMP generator, they drift in their direction of travel. So you can have their squadrons drift right into the jaws of your Vipers.
Yep. So
getting a bit more technical and specific there, though.
Yeah, a bit more technical, but there are fun things you can do with carrier fleets. Even when you're bringing lots of them. It's worth noting here, while we're still looking at this first one, carrier fleets tend to run a little more pure. They have enough flexibility in their squadrons. They're a little more pure than gun fleets or missile fleets are. We'll see this here. We can.
Yeah. That being said, don't shy away from Battlestars when you're making a Colonial carrier fleet.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Because Battlestars are still very good at helping against gun elements that close into range, and they provide very good protection against munitions through their flak.
Yes, and of course, an Atlas still only brings 2 fighters. That's the same number you get on any Battlestar. The Jupiter 2, if you're bringing that, brings 2 support squadrons. That's more than an Atlas brings. What you're getting out of the Atlas is the Atlas itself is way cheaper. But yeah, you definitely shouldn't shy away from bringing more Battlestars. And let's actually even look at that real quick. So let's say we're going with the Artemis, because of course the Artemis just really gives you good bang for your buck with its cheap price.
I still maintain that the Artemis is the single most cost-efficient ship in the game. Is it the best one? Debatable. Is it the most cost-efficient one? I say it is.
Yeah, I'd be hard-pressed to pick between the Artemis and the Adamant, but that also depends a lot on, are you running 4K or 8K? Let's say we're bringing not EMP generators, EMP mines. There we go. Because of course the EMP mines are great for picking on things that have more guns than you.
EMP mines are also extremely good at discouraging things that want to dive underneath you. And
yes.
And before you get to the Jupiter stage with Battlestars, most of your Battlestars have got junk for bottom guns.
Yeah, Minervas can kind of defend themselves. They've got enough bottom guns. But even then, you're still losing a lot of firepower for the points that you're spending.
Yeah, dedicated gunships are still going to eat them. Like, it gives you protection against things that are not dedicated gunships, but stuff like Revenants and Arachne, Minotaurs, Heracles, they're just going to eat you alive.
I think? No, we can't quite do that. Let's see. I'll go here, and an ARP, and we still have 7150, which sounds to me like a Berserk. Or maybe an Adamant, either one. Probably an Adamant is a better idea, just because you can get better points utilization. Plus the light guns on the Adamant. Not shabby for helping with the fighter battle there. And a little more armor. I'm not sure. Let's see, 40 points. I don't think you can fit a.
That's like a torpedo or bust.
Yeah, and you're probably better off with the torpedo. Single torpedoes are kind of meh, just because, especially on an Adamant, it's it's a decent bit of damage, but it's not enough to actually kill anything.
Back in one moment.
So, here we go. We've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11 fighters still. That's not a lot less. So, here we go. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. That you're only one less here than we had over here. If we go, this one again, 12 fighters. So don't feel bad about including some Battlestars into your carrier fleets. You can still end up with handily a really solid fighter amount. Annoy them to death? Yes, you definitely with fighters are just going to slowly pick apart your enemy. Though, once you've won that fighter battle, if you've got 6 fighter squadrons left, you will pick apart a capital ship really quick. Even stuff with heavy armor, Atlas and Jupiters and Heracles, even they'll get picked up pretty quick. Let's look at the Cylon Carrier fleets next. Let's see. Here we go. Okay. So this is what I was talking about with Gorgons are probably my exception to, really being able to bring in those support craft. Again, we've got 5 pure carriers, which gives us, 3 fighters each. That's 15 fighters, a war driver each. That's 5 war drivers, and then the Gorgons, they bring in more war drivers. Now, that means I have a lot of war drivers compared to the number of fighters I've got. But of course, the Gorgons have some point defense guns. Don't know that we can see them in these holographic images. But the Gorgons, some point defense guns help you win the fighter battle. You've got the machine learning, really helps your fighters stick around.
Back in.
Welcome back. Just starting in on the Cylon carriers. Or Cylon carrier fleets.
Yeah, just to note, Cylon carrier fleets can also look awfully similar to Cylon missile fleets.
They definitely can. I mean, this one that I'm starting with here is, 5 Serbs and 2 Gorgons. Um, but you can
Oh my.
definitely, yeah. Uh, and this is great fun. Just the 2 Gorgons. This is what I was talking about earlier. Cerberus will not outrun anything besides a base star. I think that's the only thing they could outrun is a base star, and even then, not by a lot. Now, fortunately, they can also outgun the base star, assuming the base star's munitions have been resolved in your favor already. Because the Cerberus has 3 heavy guns to the base star's 2, but uh, the Cerberus will not outrun anything. And even with all 5 of these together, you're looking at 10 heavy guns. That's as many heavy guns as you get out of what? It's as much heavy firepower as a single Heracles. You are not
Sorry, did you say
outgunning
that's?
much.
Did you say it's 10 heavy guns there?
Oh, I did say 10, but it's actually 15.
That's 15 heavy guns then.
So it's as
There's a
much
nice amount of
firepower as all of
firepower.
2 Minotaurs. It's less firepower than 2 Minotaurs.
There's enough firepower there to deal with any single ship that comes and gives you trouble.
Yeah, but only
Though
any
a single ship is
ship.
not going to be coming. That's not going to happen. There is going to be more than one ship that comes for you.
Yeah.
In fact, having a quick look at this, assuming that you've got a full raider complement with a war driver on all of these, you could make this a little bit more interesting if you swapped out the war drivers on the Gorgons for Scorpions.
So I don't have that, but I do have this, which is basically that, except instead of war drivers, it's Vespid, or instead of Scorpions, it's Vespids, because why not? Now,
So the
Scorpions
idea
are
behind...
admittedly the better move, but the Vespids are so much more fun. But
Yeah, the
Scorpions
Vespids
are
are
the better
definitely fun
idea,
on it.
because the Scorpions provide you missile defense. They give you some missiles for the enemy to worry about, and they just generally are better damage output than the Vespids are.
And if a capital ship comes close to 4 Scorpions, it's going to get ripped to pieces.
Oh yeah.
Alongside the guns of 5 Cerberus, bad things are going to happen.
Yeah, because that'd be 15 heavy guns. And what's a Scorpion? A medium gun? 2 medium guns? Something like that?
It's a heavy gun with a rate of fire of a medium.
Is that what it is? Okay. So.
And about the same accuracy to boot.
Okay. So it's, I guess, roughly at that point, roughly the output of a couple of mediums then. But yeah, so definitely, if you wanted to run something like this, the Scorpions are the better idea. And the Gorgons do say, okay, the enemy managed to catch up to my Cerberus with enough stuff that I couldn't kill it all. The Gorgons have the speed to run away. There is nothing that can catch up to a Gorgon that will be able to survive the swarm of fighters that you bring.
Yeah, and if you've established air superiority and you've still got most of your raiders, like about, let's say, 7 or 8 of your raiders survive the mess, that is still enough to do nasty things to anything short of a Battlestar.
Yep. And even against the Battlestar, yeah, it may take it a few turns, but you will pick it off. It will die.
Yeah, and if you want to play specifics on that, you can then start approaching from angles and going for specific subsystems with those 7 or 8 raiders to what is suitable for the moment. But go into that in a bit more depth another time.
Yep. I'm not really going to go into variations on this. As Waggle mentioned, carrier fleets for Cylons can look a lot like the missile fleets, because of course, these Serbs maxed out 1340 points. That's about what the base stars cost. So if I... Oh, that's weird. That's a bug. Let's see. Do I have... Nope. Here we go. So 1340. The base star maxed out. Here we go. 1370, and that's with a torpedo instead of a guided missile for one of those slots. So this is one less fighter, and you get 2 missiles out of it. And I want to say a base star is generally a lot more durable too. I think you get another like 80 or 100 hull points or something like that, so it's a lot harder to knock out a base star.
Base star is 200/60. So
Yeah.
200 hull and 60 on all of its facings, with I believe 45 on one of them. I think it's the top. You'd think I'd have this memorized by now. This is why I made a guide. Oh, it's the bottom that's 45, everything 60 on the base.
Oh, okay.
Whereas
And
the Cerberus is 150 hull with 75 on everything but the bottom, which is 60.
So yeah, so you lose some armor, but you get 50 more hull, and of course the base star much easier to use all of your armor than it is with the Cerberus. Yeah. So the Cerberus versus a base star, you can totally pick whatever you like. Now let's go into our balanced fleet. Let's see. Do we have?
You know what? For a balanced fleet, why not show the epitome of what I would consider a balanced fleet? It's a Cylon one to start off with, which is a bit weird on the way that we've been doing this, but it helps explain the point of why I'd make a balanced fleet this way.
Yeah,
I'm referring to my tournament fleet.
Yeah,
and you can throw it together in 2 seconds.
Yeah, I feel like I have that, but maybe I deleted it.
You probably do, it's just named under something different.
Yeah. Alright, we'll just throw... Yep, I actually don't have one anymore. So yeah, we'll just throw one together real quick.
So, just for reference, it used to be 3 Argos, 3 Revenants, 1 Nemesis. That obviously had to change, so it's 2 Argos, 1 Cerberus, 3 Revenants.
Oh, you still go with 3 Revenants?
Yeah, this obviously wouldn't be a tournament legal one, so I'd end up swapping out a Revenant for probably an Arachne. But if we're just going on general fleets at the moment, because we've been going on general fleets and not tournament rules,
yeah,
it'd be Argos, Serb.
Do you have all raiders, or do you have some raider prototypes? I don't remember.
Oh, the bulk of this is raider prototypes.
Oh, is it mostly raider prototypes? Okay.
Yeah, like so the Serb is the only thing that's got actual raiders.
You're running 1 armor piercer on each Argos, right?
Yep.
And then, of course, we want our single war driver.
Yep.
Oh, I'm missing the Nemesis. That's what I'm missing.
That's why you've still got points rolling.
Yeah, I was like, I should have points to finish up.
Waggle, why didn't you just get raiders? I want the Nemesis.
Yeah. Totally fair. Raider prototype, and Raider prototype, and Raider prototype, and Raider prototype. Okay, doop. There we go. Okay, and now we can throw in
the Nemesis.
Almost can throw in. I mean, well, actually, you could throw in the Arachne if you want.
There are some options
or not
on this.
Arachne, the Talon.
If you really, really want another Raider prototype, which...
Yeah. A Gorgon would also be interesting here, because yes, you should have points to do 2 more war drivers there.
You could.
Hit exactly 8,000.
The issue is, this front element is the recon bit, which is part of the whole premise of the balanced fleet I wanted to explain with this. So I personally would not go for a Gorgon here. It is something you could do, but in the interest of explaining a balanced fleet, I'd throw the Nemesis out front.
Actually...
The munition that you throw on the Nemesis can be anything you want. With any spare points you've got left over, I start kitting out with as many Raiders as you can get.
And my opinion would be to upgrade the Raiders before I bother upgrading the munition slot on the Nemesis.
The Cerberus would be priority for the Raiders.
Yep, and I was actually just looking at that like, oh, but we don't have enough points for that many Raiders.
So in fact, it's just the 3 Raiders that you can put onto the Cerberus. And I find it very important to have those 2 AP missiles on the Argos, because the idea behind these 2 Argos is for them to split, and each one needs to independently be able to throw damage.
Yep.
And 3 guided missiles starts to slack if you come against anything that's armored up.
The good news is that does mean we have 40 points left over for torpedoes. Because who doesn't
Or
love
a
torpedoes?
scrambler.
Or a scrambler. I feel like you'd probably be better off with the torpedoes, just because I would want another angle to threaten with munitions.
So the way that I'd lay this out, Nemesis up front, 1 Argos back far left, another one back far right. The Cerberus I tend to hang back and around centered, because it can go either way depending on how I want to lay it out. The Revenants will stay back and close to the main fleet. They will not be up front. Because what these Revenants do will be based entirely upon what that Nemesis tells me I'm up against.
Yep. This is one of those, if you find out the enemy has no gunships, move in with your Revenants.
And the Revenants can do that with haste. So, just to give you an explanation on this, for the idea of the balanced fleet. Now, this fleet here, if you just look at it in general, it has 9 combat-capable squadrons in the Raiders and Raider prototypes. That's on the Argos and the Cerberus. It's got a war driver to help with fight a battle if you need to, against munitions with its jamming and redirect, if you want it to be doing that. It's got a lot of gun presence in the 3 Revenants. It's got constant munition presence in reloading munitions on those 2 Argos that can go in any direction that they please. And it's got that main recon element through the Nemesis, so you can make the decision on how you're going to apply this fleet from turn 1.
Yep.
It doesn't particularly excel in any of these roles, but it has all 3 of these angles plus recon available to it, so it can come at these different angles constantly. It excels at its presence by overflowing the opponent in multiple angles. That is what a lot of balanced fleets will be aiming to do. Not necessarily being great at any single aspect of munition, squadron, or gun battle, but being able to put up enough of a pain in the ass through multiple approaches that they can't handle everything that's going on at once.
Yep. So, and this is really kind of the point that you need to do with balanced fleets in general is, okay, I'm going to use my scouting, whether that's a Nemesis or a Talon or a Manticore or some Raptors or some Heavy Raiders, whatever you're using for your scouting element. You're looking, seeing what the enemy has. If he doesn't have many guns, move in with your gunships, go for that kill before he can delete all of your fighters and get you at long range. If you see that he's got a bunch of missiles, keep these ships back, rain down with your own missiles using your Dradis lock while he doesn't have any, hopefully, and rain the missiles down while your fighters keep his fighters busy. If he's running a gun fleet himself, run away, pick off any of his gunships that do get too close using your few Revenants, and rain missiles down on him.
That's
you want to play up the whatever strength you have. You will have something that you have more. I can't talk. There will be some role on that triangle where you are stronger in that role than your opponent is. Unless you have identical fleets to each other, you will have some strength greater than your opponent. You will have more fighters, or more missiles, or more guns. And you want to play to that strength. You're going to pretend like you're a gun fleet using your 3 Revenants, or you're going to pretend like you're a carrier fleet using your 9 fighters, or you're going to pretend like you're a missile fleet using the 2 Argos and the Nemesis.
And for what it's worth, when running a balanced fleet, now this is a principle that normally applies to Cylons in general, but if you're playing a balanced fleet for either Colonials or Cylons, this concept applies so hard. You must dictate the pace of the battle. If you start playing to the other person's tune when you're playing a balanced fleet, they will eventually wear you down, and then they'll start pulling you to bits. The idea is to engage where you want to engage and apply pressure where you want to put it with the balanced fleet, until eventually you make their significant advantage on one of those three parts of the triangle either not a problem or actually dealt with, and then use your remaining elements to overwhelm them. So if they've got a massive fighter advantage, you'll use your whole bunch of raiders that you've got, eventually draw them into gun range of the Revenants, and make the battle happen there and shred them to pieces with the Revenant gunfire, whilst your raiders basically sacrifice themselves. And then once that's happened, you've still got your Revenants and you can just go and chew up the fleet. Or you can use the time that's being made from that to get your Argos into position to start dropping munitions onto the fleet that's not got fighter protection. But you've got to dictate how that happens. If you start playing to the enemy's tune with a balanced fleet, things are going to go badly very quickly. It takes a very patient mindset to make balanced fleets work properly.
It does. And it takes a lot of experience. This is one of those cases where, we talked earlier about, know what all the enemy ships are. And we'll get into this more when we talk about how to play these different fleets in terms of actually playing them, not just, building a good one. But you really need to be able to look at the enemy fleet just after the results of turn 1 only. When he's launched any torpedoes he wants to launch on turn 1, when he's scrambled any fighters on turn 1, you need to be able to look at the results of that and go, okay, my opponent has this, or pretty close to this. I need to, and right then you need to be able to decide, this is how I need to start playing my fleet.
And hey, the good thing of this one, because you've got a Nemesis poking its nose out front, on most maps, there's ones like Caprica where you start really far away from each other. Many of the maps, turn 1, you will ID over half of their fleet instantly with a fully powered tech bay and navigation.
Oh, yeah.
And right from that first turn, you can start making a plan.
Let me think here. I don't know that I have any fully, really center of the line balanced colonial fleets. I guess this might actually be the closest, but this is more of a meme than a good fleet. So let's not look at that one very seriously.
I mean, you can do a 5 times Artemis fleet. It's just
you can do it, but like if we look at this,
clincher is recon for it. You need to know what you're going into, because you can accidentally headbutt something that's going to tear you to pieces with a 5 times Artemis fleet, and you've got no Raptors, you've got no Manticore, you've got no Adamant that you can go and slight. It is all just Artemis and Vitals.
Yeah. So let's see. No, that's. We may need to just build one up real quick.
That was a fleet.
Which one? This one?
The surviving the Waggle.
Yes. This was great fun. I had fun playing this against you.
Oh, wasn't that the 4 times debris mine job?
Yes, I believe. Yes, 4 debris mines, 2 on each of the Rangers. Yep. That was a good, solid, fun time. So I don't think... Yeah, we'll just have to build one up real quick here, which is fine. Okay.
Because of the colonial ships in general, with a lot of them just being completely drowned in guns or squadrons for Battlestars, they'll look fairly similar to They'll look fairly similar to either squadron focus fleets or gun focus fleets, a balanced colonial. And that's not necessarily a problem.
No, so let's see. Let's say I don't normally recommend starting with a Jupiter 2, but it does nicely just show off a balanced fleet, I think, for starting out here. So we can start this off with like the Jupiter 2, a couple of Minotaurs to give us some more guns. Because, of course, the Jupiter 2, awesome as it is kind of as expensive for how many guns it gives you.
And also, Battlestar artillery is notoriously meh at dealing with the smaller targets. Stuff like Stuff like Revenants and Arachne. It hits, it hurts, but you're going to take a ton of return fire in the process.
Yeah, and the
And if there's any
Minotaur's
more,
got what?
if there's any more
Mediums
than
and
one
heavies?
Revenant, it's going to hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mediums and heavies, if I recall. Mediums on the broadside, heavies top and bottom.
Yes, and Minotaurs have also got increased accuracy, so they're very good with them.
And of course, we're going to want a couple more Atlas, give us a little more fighter coverage. There. We're gonna really just kind of how much can we utilize that one flag field as we stack up everything to hide behind it. And of course, again, we want some more fighters. And ARPs give us a very nice strike package, so we're gonna keep going with the ARPs. And then we still have 7,200, or still have 800 points, which gives you. You could probably go Mantacorn for the scouting element. It's probably the best overall.
If you want,
But you could
I would
do
say
an
Manticore,
adamant.
but yeah, I was thinking if you do a point adamant with something like a PCM and a Viper Mark II,
So I think
it may actually survive being a recon element. Oh, I don't think you can do both.
yeah, you'd have to sacrifice either ARPs or Viper 2s elsewhere. So whether or not you do that is I don't know. You could do the Berserk, but I would not. Like, the Berserk is just going to get melted one way or the other.
Yeah, Berserks do. And if memory serves, the Berserk Dradis isn't all that fantastic anyway.
I feel like it has average Dradis, but this is probably one of those cases where you're probably...
It's got the standard 5,000.
Does it? Okay.
Yeah, so, like the Adamant.
I'd probably go with the Manticore, just for that extra... We really need to know what the enemy has.
With the EMP gen to be a point discouragement, and run the rest of your fleet being held a little further back.
And we still have a few points. I'd probably on the Jupiter upgrade that to PCM, just because honestly, if you've got that flak up most of the time, the PCM to cover some of the odd angles that you may be stuck at, probably the better idea.
I'd also be partial to a debris mine, as this is fairly light on squadron presence.
Yep.
You have 6 Mark IIs, and that's your whack. And in a 6k game, that's fairly low for a squadron count. Sorry, in an 8k game.
Yep. And this is, debris mine here on the Manticore, because of course the enemy will probably target it with, or will target it with either missiles or fighters, whatever he's got available. Because if he's got guns, he'll just ignore it till it's time for cleanup at the end. And of course, if he's got fighters, then debris mine to just kind of go, oh, you're going to chase me with your fighters? Well, get slagged. So,
in fact, I'm looking at this. Can you drop the Manticore and one of the Minotaurs and get 2 Adamants?
Yes, you could definitely fit that in. And that would probably be giving you a couple extra fighters, letting you hit 10. I did not do a good job positioning those. Doop, 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 doop. And
because a single Minotaur backing up a Battlestar has got a pretty significant amount of firepower. Well, the first thing that I get on these Adamants are the Mark IIs.
Oh, yep, that we don't have points for the munitions upgrade, but that's fine. Guided missiles.
Just having guided missiles on them is a nice little bolster.
Yeah.
I mean, there, you've got the full 8 squadrons, they're all Mark IIs. You've got the Minotaur with the Mark II Jupiter, and if you really didn't want to bring the Mark II Jupiter, you could downgrade to a Mark I and have a lot more points to play around with. Just depending on how you want to play this. You've got a ton of Assault Raptors, which can deal with some of the more pressing or annoying capital ships like Revenants that you want to deal with. So this is a fleet that's starting to come into a bit more of a generalist one, but you are going to need to take a moment to try and find out what your enemy has before you start trying to deal with it. And the good thing is, because you've got a pair of Adamants, if you can keep them alive, those Adamants are quick enough to catch up with an Argos and deal with it, if you can keep it protected.
You know what? Switching to the... I always forget. This is one of the reasons we don't necessarily want to go with the Jupiter 2. Because here we can swap out the Jupiter 2 for Jupiter 1 and get in, an entire Berserk, which, of course, for this light ship stack here, gives you a lot. And, we can just... Probably on the Jupiter I would swap out. That way the Viper 2s with the Adamants can
if
continue
you want,
keeping up.
you could keep the Mark II on the Jupiter and change the Assault Raptor for a regular Raptor.
Yep.
And have a recon element.
Yep. And then, if you wanted, you could swap out one of these Adamants guided missiles for torpedoes.
So now if you look at this fleet as a balanced fleet, it's got squadron presence. Its munitions presence is a little bit light, but it still has those guided missiles on the Adamants, which is nice for helping deal with more mobile or gun-focused threats, for dealing some damage on them, or helping to poke at long-ranged enemy assets like the Argos and the such.
Mm-hmm.
So it's got the squadrons. It's definitely got guns for days, so it's getting the 3 points of the triangles pretty nicely here.
Yep. And so, I want to mention here, I left these 2 Atlas in the back here to kind of sit behind the flak, but don't be afraid to bring an Atlas up in to help your gunfight. That's 6 more heavy guns and 4 more mediums. That's more firepower than I think these 3 ships combined. Because this is 8 light guns and 5 medium guns.
Mm-hmm.
Versus 6 heavies and 4 mediums.
And also...
And of course, these are super durable. Your opponent is not going to bother shooting at these. At least until he's got
a brick for a reason. It's okay for it to poke out from behind flak every now and again and take some hits. It can take the hits.
Yeah.
You don't want it to get drowned.
It can take a nuke and keep on trucking.
Yeah.
It can take a nuke and still have more hit points than an adamant does fresh. So, yeah, don't be afraid to, once you're no longer, bring these Atlas up once you're getting into the gun range. Let them help out. So, yeah, this is probably a pretty solid balanced fleet here. You've got decent amount of guns, not to be approached without careful consideration. You've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 fighters. And a couple ARPs and a Raptor.
What's on the support for the Atlas?
The Atlas have 2 ARPs, so you've got some strike package there.
If you want to get a little fancy with this fleet, you can swap out the ARPs for sweepers, and you can have them run dedicated protection for the 2 Adamants and the Berserk, and you can specifically use those 3 lighter escort ships to go and hunt down Argos in particular, if you're feeling a bit worried about dealing with them.
Oh yeah.
If you think that they're just going to run away and try and missile you to death, if you run a sweeper or 2 to cover light attachments like that, you can go hunt them down and have your Atlas, Jupiter, and Minotaur hold the line whilst you do that.
Yep. But yeah, this is, at 9 fighters, you're not purely a carrier fleet, but you've got enough fighters to definitely make anybody else think twice before coming straight at you. You've got enough guns to make anyone else think twice before coming straight at you with their guns, unless they're going pure guns. And, at 3 missile slots, it's a decent bit of firepower for kind of those mid-range engagements as well.
And hey, it's tournament legal.
It is, yes. We don't have more than 2 of any one ship. This actually really isn't even all that far off from what my tournament fleet is. I've been running, instead of this Minotaur, I've been running a Berserk. A little more carrier focus.
I'd play with the formation a little bit and how it's set up. But I mean, in general, the actual fleet, the composition that you've got going on here, like, I'd be pretty comfortable taking this fleet out for a spin.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, this is one of those things, like, I'd probably, situate the carriers up closer to the Jupiter so that once you get into gun range, they can just, one of them will slot right in under, and the other one can kind of peek between the cracks or whatever. Maybe put these light elements off in a corner so you can get flanking maneuvers faster, that sort of thing. So, do people want to see how we actually use these? We can probably... We've talked about it quite a bit here.
Yeah. Well, just to round up the points of the actual fleet composition itself, just remember that just bringing this all together, fleets are broken down into 3 core points for what's in them: gun power, squadron power, munition power. Regardless of how you're going to put your fleets together, have a plan in mind for what you're going to do about each of those 3 elements. And the one thing that any of them you're going to want present in them, with a few exceptions, and I'm not going to go into too much detail about it, you're going to want some form of recon. You need to know what's happening on the enemy side. You need to know what they're bringing to the table, because you can have the most finely tuned and well laid out fleet, a well positioned fleet in formation, but if it turns out that they're just running the hard counter tier and you've not found out until you're in their face, you're gonna get wrecked. Remember your recon kits.
So we've built up, what is this, like 8 fleets? I had a few already built, but for the most part we've built up about 8 fleets. What would people like to see demonstrated most? Let me know in chat what you would like to see demonstrated most. When it comes to playing fleets, well, while we wait for people to respond, I'll talk a little more. When it comes to playing fleets, in general, if you are the shorter range fleet, you need to rush down the enemy. So if you're bringing more guns, you need to get in close, gun them down. If you're going with missiles and he's got guns, you're going to hang back and try and, if you're longer ranged. If you're longer range, you want to play for distance. If you're shorter range, you want to rush in. Guns are short range, missiles are medium range, carriers are long range. So the missiles will rush down the carriers, guns will rush down missiles and carriers, missiles will run away from guns, and carriers will run away from everything. Generally speaking.
And I mean, in the interests of you having someone that shoots back, I'd be happy to actually provide an opponent on this. It's a public thing. This is for education and teaching people and helping them with fleet composition and how to actually apply them.
Well, I can go up against Garfield here.
Garfield, if you want to go up against Garfield, that could be done.
Yep, I'll go up against Garfield, so you don't have to violate any of it.
I'm not playing any match. This tournament is killing me.
Yeah, I'll bet.
I almost had a legit reason. This is killing me here, guys.
Alright, so Ghostpick says toaster for life, so we'll do one of our Cylon fleets that we've put together, which is fine. That'll nicely annoy Fear the Waggle, Garfield says.
You know what?
No what?
How's about you humour me and use my tournament fleet? I want to see what it's like in your hands.
Alright. Well, that's kind of what I was thinking I'd go with anyway, just because this is probably the one that needs the demonstration more than any other fleet. Now, I should make note to everyone here. I have tried using this fleet, and I am okay at it. I'm definitely better than any rookies. But I am not Waggle at this fleet.
Which actually brings me to the next point. How much backseat commanding do you want from me here?
I would say go ahead. Go ahead and do as much as you're comfortable with, because this is why I wanted you to be able to come in here, because you are very much the expert on this sort of thing.
Allegedly.
Well, you won 2 tournaments on it, so...
Won 2 tournaments, wrote a stats guide, wrote a few... Yeah, okay, alright, so fine, we'll go with it. Gottpig mentioned he made the fleet legal by putting a Talon instead of the 3rd Revenant. I can see where you're coming from with that, but having the 3 Revenants for me in the fleet is a large part of its actual effectiveness. Like, having that... Because this fleet is based upon cornerstones.
Confirmed.
Like, having all of that firepower in the Revenants, having all of that munitions in the Argos, having just enough squadron power provided by the Cerberus and the Argos there. I'd feel very uncomfortable getting rid of a part of the core gun power.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of those things where, we kind of outlined out some good fleets here, but it's really going to come down to player preference. That's weird. See, have you ever had this happen where it hits 17 on your Argos for that last subsystem?
Yeah, it's a visual thing.
It's like, that rounding error
just goes all weird on you. By the way, Argos deployment. One goes high and right, one goes high and left. Revenants immediately dive, and the Cerberus just takes it slow, but it either dives or climbs depending on how you're feeling and what you can kind of see. I'd normally go with the diving to kind of keep pace with the Revenants. The Revenants will dive, but they will hold back, and depending on the map, they'll either turn in one of the directions. Left is hell to navigate through, so I'd probably go right.
Okay, so I probably want to focus fire control more. I have to see if I can annoy you with how I do my subsystems again.
Oh, yeah, I'm feeling it. It's hurting. Don't you worry about that.
Okay, so we're going to hold back with the Revenants. And dive. And we're going to go...
In fact, I'd take a look at the map around you, because this is what Waggle would do with this fleet. I'd take a look and I'd see which way is going to be the more troublesome to navigate through if I dive with my Revenants. If left looks like it's going to be a pain, I'll go right. If right looks like it's going to be a pain, I'll go left.
That's fair. I'm used to just kind of always going...
Just picking a direction and rolling?
I just have a tendency of going left.
This is a 200 IQ fleet.
I just have a tendency of always going left, but I think
because
you're
the
right
nature of this
going.
fleet is to hold back until I know what I want to do. Going right, I can still stay back and I'm well away from that mess of asteroids. If I burn straight left with these Revenants, I'm going straight into a place that's going to suck to navigate.
Yeah. Well, and more specifically, as we get later on, as he tries to close on anything, if he tries to close on the Nemesis, or on the Revenants, he may well end up having to come through this mess. Yeah. Hey, we must be fighting Garfield. There's torpedoes on turn 1.
This is why you change your elevation.
Always, always, always. Of course, that's not going to save the poor...
No, the Cerberus is going to take hits. In fact, I would responsibly swap to full engineering on this to mitigate the damage.
So that's what I've started doing with the Cerberus just in general.
Yeah,
I don't even power the fire.
Range.
Yeah, it's not going to be in gun range unless things have gone desperately, desperately wrong.
Right, so first thing here that we want to do is stop looking at our fleet and look at theirs. What are we dealing with?
So he's actually bringing the fleet I helped him set up earlier, which is basically my tournament fleet. He's done an earlier iteration on it, the previous iteration on it, and that's having 3 torpedoes. But otherwise, it's
first
10 fighters, 3 ARPs, decent bit of guns.
Yeah, because the clock's running. First thing that I'm going to do is Argos. Both of them are just going to dump munitions. Each of them are going to drop munitions on each of those berserks. So left one will take the top one, right one will take the bottom one, and they'll just dump munitions on them to see if I can bait squadrons out to do something stupid.
Complete.
And we want to remember to power up our fire control when we do it.
Yep.
I'm actually going to change so that I think we'll get slightly better timing if we have this one shoot
Now,
the
I am
top one.
specifically going for the berserks on this, because if the berserks can be taken out by some miracle from these munitions, which they won't, it's more to spook them and provoke a response, I will see the most immediate benefit from those berserks getting killed because of the ridiculous amount of evasion. And I want that gone and dealt with.
Now, you bring all your fighters down, right?
I bring all of my squadrons within gun range of the Revenants, and I hover them a distance in front of the Revenant, looking to bait the enemy into coming into gun range and engage there. And now that the Cylon has positively ID'd the fleet, I think you might actually have an angle to drop a torpedo salvo on the top of that Jupiter from where you are.
So what I've been doing, and I mean, I admit I mostly do this with my nuke fleet, is I wait a turn because the Nemesis has such a lead. If I wait one turn to fire the missiles will come in at the same time as the ones from the Argos.
I mean, you can. That's on you. But I mean, also that Nemesis might be about to die horribly. So we'll see how this pans out.
Cerberus hull compromised.
Minor hull damage on the Cerberus.
Yeah,
consider that
that's
one.
fine. Okay.
Tech bay.
Yeah, like we don't care. Oh, and I forgot we put torpedoes on this, which is just delicious. You know what, actually?
Right, has he been diving or rising with his light component of his fleet?
Actually, he might even have been staying more or less on level.
Well, then I suppose I would target one of the two berserks. If he was rising, I'd go for the highest one, so the torpedoes scatter into the bottom ones. If he was diving, I'd go for the bottom one, so it scatters into the top. But if he's level, go middle.
Yeah, and I'm gonna go for the middle one, or the higher of the two berserks. Just because, yeah, in case he goes down a little. If he stays on plane, of course, I'll hit that berserk as is.
Don't forget power management on the Nemesis, so you're actually firing the torpedoes.
And actually, we are done with the tech bay. I'll even just lock it down to 0.
So this Nemesis is dead. Those Vipers and
we'll
those
catch
Raptors
it and kill
are
it.
going
Yeah.
to eat it. The Squadrons, I would put about 4,000 meters to the left side of the Revenants. I say left side, as in the physical left side of the ship. So how about that?
Off their port quarter.
Port quarter, there you go. And I would continue. Now this is where I would start picking up speed with the Revenants. Not approach, but taking the circle round to come round the back of the Jupiter and the Atlas without being in gun range of all of those annoying light ships. And I would actually start with the left Argos. I'd start pulling back and keeping its rough position while everything else starts to swing around to the right. I don't want to go too far left or the light ships are going to catch up with me, and that would suck.
And the war driver, I probably want to set to...
Does he have any guided munitions?
He doesn't have any. So I can probably even just set it to go ahead and defend. There we go. Defend that. He can help out in the fighter battle, because obviously without any guided missiles, there's no sense in trying to have it defend against munitions. It just won't make enough difference.
Now, for any of the newer players, it may be tempting to think, we've got all of his squadrons to back away from... he's actually split his squadrons. So you know the ones that are going for the missiles that came from your right, Argos?
Yep.
Those ones, at the moment, are particularly vulnerable, but we don't want to go for them just now.
Yeah, because if I went for him now, I wouldn't have my Revenants in range.
Yeah. But This has shown us that the opponent that we're facing is willing to split apart his squadrons in response to a missile salvo. So what we want to do is start getting our Revenants into position, so the next time that we put out
Confirmed.
salvos of Argos, we can take advantage
By
of
your
this.
command.
And because he's not reacting to our diving with the Revenants, I wouldn't go too much lower. I would alternate between diving and raising, just for safety from torpedoes. Because if we sink too far, we're not going to be able to respond to those Adamants and Berserks if we need to in the future, because we're just going to be
Well, and of course we
on
don't
the
want to
shop
be
floor.
too far out of plane for even supporting the fighter battle, because of course a lot of our
Right.
firepower comes from the light guns that are on the broadside. If I recall,
fact-
it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 light guns. It's an adamant and a half worth of light guns.
How's the Nemesis doing?
Nemesis is in good shape because he went to defend, but he does have these ARPs chasing it. He's probably going to try and fire ARP missiles at it, so run away!
So, directly away from the ARPs. So, fun fact about the ARPs, they've got a maximum range for their missiles. So, with the faster ships like the Nemesis and the Cerestes, if they fire at max range, which is 4,000 meters, you can actually get far enough away for the missiles to pre-detonate before they hit. So, if you guys ever want to fire ARP missiles at the more maneuverable targets, the Wagglepuss recommendation is to be within 2,000 meters before you pull the trigger.
Yep. And actually, against the slower targets, if you're firing at max range, don't be also heading away from it, because just the act of the missiles turning to go back towards the target
Yep.
will still
You
cause
lose
it to...
about 5 meters.
Yeah. So yeah, Garfield did the right thing of not firing his missiles, but this does let our Nemesis make a clean getaway. And actually,
Yeah, the Nemesis will continue to run in that direction and continue to draw attention in that direction because the Revenant's getting geared up to come around on the flank.
Now, would you start bringing the Nemesis back around to see if I can bring the ARPs into trap with the fighters, or would you not bother?
No, I'd keep on pulling directly away because the closer that you get to your Argos, the
Right.
closer those ARPs are going to get to the Argos once they've dropped their salvo and killed the Nemesis. And it's extra damage on the Argos that we don't need. And the priority here is not to deal with the ARPs. 3 ARPs is not a problem for a pair of Argos. What we need to deal with is all of those Viper Mark IIs, because they will shred the Revenants once they've dealt with your Raiders. At the moment, I would classify those ARPs as annoying at most.
Yep, that's fair. Okay, so let's see. We probably want to continue kind of closing the gap a little bit because we can kind of outrun with these Revenants. Is that about right?
Yeah, you've still got the outrunning deal that's going on with the Jupiter and the 2 Atlas, but this is where we need to take a little bit of care of the environment. We're coming up to a whole bunch of
Right here.
asteroids on our
Yeah.
right, and we have the very real possibility of hemming ourselves into gun range with things that are going to tear us to pieces if we stay within gun range of them, and that's not a good place to be. So depending on how he reacts to this next missile launch will depend on what your Raider squadron is going to be doing the next turn. If he does the split again to try and protect with his Vipers, it may be coming time soon to get the drop. Hey, here comes more torpedoes.
Yep, and of course, that defended position knocking out at least one in there.
Yeah, this is where we would
Rotating
spin.
that around.
Yeah,
Let it hit
turning
the front and the right armor. And it looks like he's maybe decided to just go ahead and take the missiles on the chin here. Not quite sure.
He seems to be committing to. Well, at the moment, he's committing to taking out the Nemesis with all of his squadrons because I think Garfield is realizing that his ARPs are just not catching it anytime this year.
No, they're not.
But this also provides an interesting opportunity, because if his Vipers are going to run off
Confirmed.
and going to go and try and deal with a Nemesis, the Revenants may be able to sly in with a cheeky turn or two to deal damage to the Jupiter and the Atlas. This kind of brings it back to the idea of when we make this balanced fleet that we are using these multiple elements to start to pull and prize apart the advantages that the other person's brought to the table, so that we can use the other elements of our fleet to deal with them. Like, our munitions have done 0 damage so far, but they're still being used to pull apart the pieces of the enemy fleet.
I want to mention here, this is kind of a little more nitty gritty than I really was intending to get into this match or this session, but I am making sure to
Yeah.
keep the rear armor of the Argos facing as much away from the enemy as I can, because that's where our fire control is, and we don't want that to get shot
you don't
at.
want that. You don't want that getting shot at. That is bad news bears.
Now, of course, it's not super relevant right now, just because he's already fired the torpedoes. It's the only thing that's going to make it to the Argos anytime soon. But it is always a good idea to do the best practice thing, even if it's not relevant immediately.
It's also a bit of a practicality term as well, because you want to keep that armor facing for as long as possible. Even if you can take the hits early on, and you can repair it off, and it'll generally be fine. But then when the match goes on for a bit longer and the Argos actually gets caught by something, you no longer have the rear armor protection, and you will immediately take the subsystem damage, rather than have a turn or so to play with. Oh, has he actually split off a number of Vipers?
Yep, he's split it so that he's got 2 groups defending, and 1 group is going to continue the pursuit, which is fair. That's honestly what I probably would have done. Though I probably wouldn't have bothered to continue pursuing with the ARPs. I don't know. That can kind of go either way, especially with the angles that we're at. He almost might as well just go ahead and bring him back to rearm once he's done taking care of the Nemesis anyway. So,
if I was in Garfield's position, I would have held those ARPs in reserve until I knew what the whole enemy fleet was, because those ARPs would have been critical to dealing with the Revenants.
Yeah.
Whilst the ARPs are dealing with the Nemesis
and now
or
they're
the Argos,
out of
they're
position.
an annoyance. But the question is, how is his Vipers looking now that he's actually reacting to the missile contact?
So he's got these 4 Vipers defending this one. He's got these 3 Vipers defending this one. Shooting down all those missiles.
So
we might get the torpedoes from the Nemesis to hit the Jupiter here. We'll see if he can turn around fast enough.
So because he split off those 3 Vipers, he only has 7 Vipers that's committed to defending his fleet. So if we can get those 7 Vipers to engage our raiders within gun range of the Revenants, we'll win that fighter battle comfortably.
So if we do something like hard turn...
So this is where I would start closing with the Revenants pretty hard. But I still want to be keeping that right-hand bias, because I don't want at any point to get committed to the terrain on the left-hand side, and I want to avoid the light section of his fleet for as long as possible, because they're the ones who will be able to respond and start putting in a bit of damage to the Revenants, which we want to avoid as much damage to the Revenants as possible.
By your command. Calculating.
And yes, in case you're wondering, Z-Dog, this is the kind of thought that goes through my head whenever I'm fielding this damn fleet.
Yep, nope, that's fair.
And I suppose for anyone else that was wondering. So, how's the Viper split looking still?
Okay, so he's still got the 3 off on the strike against the Nemesis, as well as the 3 ARPs.
Still just keep on running away, that's cool. Also looks like he'll get a cheeky little torpedo hit as well, which is nice. Like, after a Nemesis,
Yeah,
recons
you
the
know,
enemy
like
fleet,
we might,
anything they do after that is a bonus.
yes, for sure, and we might even actually end up hitting these light ships rather than the Jupiter because he's got time to flip his flak around to the other side to protect the Jupiter and the Atlas. But yeah, all right, cool. Okay, so.
I would say there would be one more turn of fairly aggressive advancing.
Yep.
But we are now quickly coming to the point where we need to be mindful of how we're going to engage those Vipers. And I would not use defend at location so much, in case he fires torpedoes and they decide that they want to go wander off wherever the hell they want to go wander off. I'd probably still use the move command. Even if he commits to an attack command at this point. Oh, Garfield. Even if he uses an attack command with his Vipers, he'll only start to scratch engagement range with your Raiders.
Yeah, that's true. I think. Well, let's see. Does he have? He has that torpedo, but he doesn't have these. I'm guessing he's not gonna bother launching torps at me.
Yeah,
And if he
he's
does,
very
it'll
fond of his alpha
probably
striking.
yeah, and it'll probably be at the Cerberus here anyway.
But yeah, now is the time for more pressure with the Argos.
And I'm thinking, so he's gonna have to take.
And I'd be mindful of the leftmost Argos, because firing lines with the asteroids is a thing.
Yep. Well, and the Tillium refinery in the way.
Yeah, but again, because of how many Vipers he's got, the Argos, well, between the Vipers and the Flak, the Argos are here just to provoke a response.
Yep. Well, and very much like if I can get those munitions to draw out these Vipers into the gun range of the Revenants, I'm very okay with that.
Yep.
And there's exactly what we were looking for.
Oh, they're going straight in. Now this is
would
where
you
all
do
of the
this?
Revenants... All of the Revenants would hit the brakes, make a sharp turn, and they would start focus firing on Vipers, and the Raiders would move to engage.
Confirmed.
He's still 3 down on the Vipers there, isn't he?
He is. He did start pulling them back, realizing that his fighters are in a bit of a bad way now. The Art's still trying
to keep doing Nemesis things.
In fact, I love how our Nemesis has actually scored 2 hits on these arms. Or that would be, yeah, it's probably 2 hits, 1 on each, and it's just rounding down. But that's hilarious.
So this is probably the most critical moment of the entire match, because this decides whether we're going to win the fighter battle or we're going to lose it.
By your command.
So with those Revenants, they've done that high sharp turn. The next one, they're going to be pulling back in the direction of the Cerberus, because if he decides to turn in with his fleet and go to engage, the Revenants are in a bad spot.
Yeah,
so
and that's why I was looking at this.
Fire.
Like,
yeah, they need to
I am
fire one of
longer
those
range
Vipers
than
and
him.
pull the hell back.
Yeah, I think since I'm longer range than him, he won't quite be able to make gun range, and if he is, it's only going to be just barely, and pretty much only just with the Jupiter. But of course, the Artemis and the Berserks, about the same speed as the Revenants, might even be able to catch him. A little bit slower, I guess. So I'm probably okay, but...
The Adamants will be able to catch you.
Will they? Okay.
This turn, they will skirt gun range if he decides to just go for it with a Jupiter. But if he decides to just go for it with a Jupiter, You'll then immediately dive really sharp, and you'll just melt his Jupiter with gunfire.
Yep.
But at the moment, we're taking advantage of the mispositioned Vipers, and we want to shred them, so make sure that you've focus fired one of those squadrons for the extra accuracy.
I did not, and that was probably a mistake.
You're not going to hit the shit. Oh, he's pulling straight away from
Yeah, he pulled straight away, which is honestly okay, because that just means that my missiles get to get hits, and I just pull my fighters back because there's enough distance that they're safe.
Fighters come back, Revenants now reprioritize the Jupiter, and they move to skirt max range and shred it from the front.
Which is admittedly dangerous.
If he doesn't want to come for the fight, let him.
Okay,
Just
so that's...
let him wander away, that's fine.
That's probably about the distance that the Jupiter can move forward on me.
Yeah, it looks about right, and I'll position the rest of the Revenants to go with it.
Confirmed.
And once again, don't forget to focus fire, because you won't actually fire at max range properly unless you focus fire.
And we're going to pull... I'm just going to flat pull them back. Not even going to do a defend, because he won't catch me, and I don't want anything to... And even if he does catch, I'd rather let one take a little bit of damage. The ARPs did at least enter gun range of this Nemesis finally. But honestly, this Nemesis has so much vertical difference on that Jupiter. I'm just going to move it right over the top. Because, yeah, might as well.
Yeah, at this point you can start thinking about doing some advanced 200 IQ flanks with your Nemesis that has survived much longer than any Nemesis has the right to.
You know, there's so much... And I like how this Cerberus is still alive, even though...
He really should have continued to drop his torpedoes on the Cerberus.
Yes, I mean, even if you didn't kill it, it forces it to not be able to contribute much, and eventually it would have dropped, and I wouldn't have had the evasion from it.
Now, personally, when I finish my turns, I pre-click on an enemy target that I want to monitor the health of as it's taking damage.
You do what? Sorry.
I pre-click an enemy ship or squadron that I want to monitor the health of as it takes damage. So,
because of course it's really hard to click things in the middle of the turn, especially the squadrons. Ships aren't too bad.
And you also get to see that armor and health, etc., just melt under Revenant fire, assuming we get it.
Yep, because we are just kind of skirting max range, and yeah, he's going to turn away so that I don't get it.
Not committing.
Yep.
That's okay.
And I don't blame him, because of course it's really easy for me to just kind of skirt that range and take the advantage here. But honestly, this still came out all right. I got, basically all these missiles are going to, or at least half these missiles are probably going to score hits and do some damage.
So what you can do now is maintain your current distance, but burn full forwards and kind of like do a rotation around his fleet and start coming to the front of the Jupiter. We are just slowly pulling from each different direction until we've got something, or he loses patience. And then that moment that we get that nice angle, or he loses patience, we just start shredding things. This is kind of the essence of how a balanced fleet is run.
Back a little more in front with this Argos, then a little more to the side with this Argos.
I would go towards the rightmost Argos with your left one, because the asteroids are going to start severely hindering your missiles.
I did that a while, the last few turns, but you think I should keep coming around? I will keep coming around. And of course we have more missiles. I don't think I'm going to kill either one of these Berserks, so I'm just going to keep firing. Whoops, except you are supposed to fire on... Oh jeez, that's so far away. Sorry, yes, that's...
Because with this angle that you're starting to get with your Argos, you'll actually start to get to the point where you can drop a salvo on the Atlas and a salvo on the light support ships, and the Jupiter will not be able to cover both of them.
Okay, and we're still pretty close, so I want to continue coming around. Avoid that gun range.
Yeah, if you turn this direction that you're turning, you may end up putting yourself into a position where those asteroids behind you are going to become a terrain problem.
You think I should just keep going this way? Straight
For the
away?
moment, I'd continue forwards, the same rough distance, so we can take shots at the Jupiter
Okay.
if he tries to turn into us. And then, depending on how the next turn pulls out, we still have the space to make the decision: do we want to bail out? And you just dart straight towards the Cerberus. And I'd also raise or lower the Cerberus in case he takes a torp stab.
Probably not going to avoid anything, but, you know, whatever.
It helps. It helps spread. And good practice. We're playing this the Waggle way.
Yep. I love this. The Nemesis taking the pot shots at the ARBs.
Oh god, this power sliding torpedo strike, I am all about.
Oh, I was hoping
I
we'd
can
get to
hear
see
the
it land.
deja vu.
I'm curious. I'm guessing that these Atlas are going to end up soaking those hits for him. Oh, look at the damage
Unless
we
he
did to these
deliberately
Berserks,
maneuvers, they
though.
shouldn't.
Look at the damage to
that
those
is
Berserks.
horrific.
Yeah, that cranked out some damage there. And I'm thinking.
So I would drag
Yeah.
select all of your Revenants and immediately focus fire the forwardmost Viper Squadron.
I'm going to come up and around just to.
Yeah. Now I definitely approve of doing that, coming around with the Revenants, because he's starting to advance slightly towards you and he's putting those two environmentals either side, and you don't want to be caught in either of them. So you still just play this nice and patient, keep wiggling away, because the moment that you give up and decide to commit to one of those sides is where you start to get locked, sandwiched, and he brings his entire 7 ships worth of firepower on your Revenants and they just die, because they're made of paper.
And he has finally given up chasing the Nemesis. It's like, fuck it, it's not worth it.
Yeah.
Or frag,
Now,
I
this is
should
great
say.
because now the Nemesis can just rain torpedoes.
Yeah, it
from
still
above.
has like half its torpedoes left.
In fact, if you haven't, I'd probably swap over to its fire control now, so you don't forget to
I've been
donate.
doing it every turn that it's firing torpedoes
Yes, you have. Jolly good.
and switching back. Okay, so these guys have their fire control set. I don't want to send my fighters in yet because that lets him engage my fighters with his support ships.
Yeah, and if he starts pulling any fancy moves, he can decide to literally pull your squadron straight into flak, and we want none of that.
Yeah, yeah, that would also be really painful. And yeah, he falls
Things
back.
are getting pretty close, but we are still
look at
very
all
much
the
playing the
hits.
patient
Did we
game.
just score a bunch of hits there? Maybe not. That looks like it still says 32. 8, 8, 8, 8, 8, 8 and 8, 8 and 8, 8 and 8. No, we didn't score any hits. That's a bummer.
I mean, you probably just shaved a little bit of damage off a few of the models themselves, which is, it's still fine.
Okay, so we want to start turning back in, kind of doing some more of that teasing, right?
Confirmed.
He's now getting the gist that he's better off not taking his light element away from the core heavy parts of his fleet. He wants to keep his Adamants and Berserks with his Battlestar now, especially after he took that big chunk of damage to the face. So now, with the Revenants, the approach is simply going to be, let's just go for the best angle to go for, which is the back of the fleet, is where you generally want to approach from. Because when you approach from the back of the enemy fleet with the Revenants, he's got to turn with the Adamants and the Berserks to engage you, and it throws them out of position.
Calculating.
And I mean, if nothing else, the stream is going to be a rather entertaining insight into the mind of Waggle when he's playing.
Yeah, and we actually did nicely beat up the top
Yeah,
of
you
the
chunked the top of
Jupiter
that.
too, which means
In fact-
if he lets us do it twice more, we'll actually knock out his fire control, and that'll give us an
The
opportunity to
next
move
time
in.
you hit that top, you should start doing fire control damage. Not a knockout, but you'll do fire control damage.
Yeah,
And to the Colonials, the slightest amount of damage to the fire control
it's punishing.
starts getting bad.
Especially because since I already have a range advantage, every little bit more range advantage I can put on is going to be punishing. In fact, I think what we may even start doing is, as much as I'd like to knock out these Berserks, they're soft enough they could be knocked out pretty easily by our Revenants. I will probably start firing missiles on the Jupiter to coordinate with the torpedoes. We're going to approach very carefully, right? Seems right.
Yep. So long as you've got enough room behind you to pull out if things start going south, you're good. You just don't want to put your back against the wall against that much firepower that he's got there, because that's like 10 medium guns, 8 light guns, and an angry Battlestar that's ready to run.
Well, 10 plus another 4, so that's 14 medium guns.
That's assuming that the Atlas get to say something about this. I'm assuming they won't.
I probably won't bother trying to kill him too early. And yeah, the Cerberus really just kind of out here being a target, not doing much. So yeah, probably gonna fire that. Make him really start working to defend that, I think. Putting the pressure on it. Any fire control damage I can do.
If you really want to mess with him, I'd put a salvo on each of the Atlas, because he won't be expecting that.
That's true. Well, so what I'm really trying to do here is force those fighters away so that the torpedoes can score hits.
Can do the thing, yeah. Are you still focusing one of those squadrons with the Revenants? Because I don't think you're going to get it in gun range of the Duke yet.
Yes, I am. But I do want to switch which squadron I'm focusing. And that one actually you can see it actually did take a hit here. It's down 2 points, so that's a heavy gun hit. 30, that's at least one medium gun hit, or light gun hit rather. Yeah. 29, 20. Oh, hey, look, that one all the way down to 28. Go Nemesis!
Death by inches.
Death by inches, that's more like death by millimeters. Trying to score hits with those torpedoes on the Revenants, really just not worth the effort. Really just not worth the effort.
Like, he could have actually destroyed the Cerberus by now.
Yes, without a doubt. Even with really fully utilizing all the armor facings, it would be dead.
And here comes another cheeky torp salvo from above.
And so this is why I was wanting to fire. Because now he either lets all of these munitions come in, or it splits up the squadrons and my torps will land. Because he's not under any cover yet. He's trying.
I mean,
but it's not
if
there
you are
yet.
feeling really ballsy, one of the things that you can do here is go for a max range skirt with your Revenants whilst your munitions are coming in, and strip off the side armor of the Jupiter whilst it's forced to keep its flak wall up. But if you mess up the positioning on that by more than about 200 meters, you're going to take a turn's worth of firepower from his light element. So it really depends on how ballsy you're feeling about this. And I wouldn't even do like individual gun targeting. I would just focus fire the Jupiter and get ready to do it. That is if you want to feel a little bit ballsy with this, because if you screw up, the Revenants are going to start taking fire.
I think I'm going to split the difference. I'm going to not bother setting a focus fire. That way the broadside guns can, pick on any squadrons that get too close. But then the heavy guns will still hit the Jupiter if it does get in range.
And I'll keep those squadrons... just keep them maneuvering so that they're ready to react.
Yeah. Can't... let's see, do I want to even try and do this if I can't get all three in? Yeah. I'm going to leave this one a little more room to maneuver here. And these guys want to keep them moved up so that they're in range to react next turn, but not in range this turn. He actually did take a little bit of damage from
By your command.
torps earlier. Okay.
Hmm.
And those were torps that I'm not sure if he fired at the Revenant or the Serb, and
Straight
or
up goes,
and it
pretty
just
much.
lined up on the other, or what happened there. Yeah. Okay. So let's see what we hit here. I'm curious.
And just be ready next turn to have your Revenants bail the hell out to this. No flak yet.
There we go. Oh, and look. Yep. So we're letting the guns hit. Oh my god, we're actually hitting the Berserk because that's actually the closest thing. Oh, that's brutal. Look at that. Doop, 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 doop. Oh,
Yep,
that's...
Jupiter's took a few hits on that Berserk's starting to
Yep.
attract a bit of unwanted attention.
Alright.
So, there's two ways that you can play this. You can go for a steady as she goes with the Revenants and maintain this distance and angle and try and get another turn's worth of fire, whilst the Vipers are being tied up with the incoming munitions, or you can just bail with the Revenants and wait for the next opportunity.
And I'm gonna...
How is the side armor looking on the Jupiter?
It's still in really good
Because as
shape.
soon as the
106.
As soon as the flak threat is gone, you can just straight up throw your raiders at the Vipers and drown them in missiles, and the game's done.
Yep.
Flak is being the only true wild card here.
By your command.
And the Cerberus is just
Doing Serby
doing its
things. Which is
doing
not
its
much. But that's okay.
And don't forget to keep track of your Nemesis.
Yep. So he actually
which is
has...
surprisingly still alive.
Yeah, mostly because it's not worth shooting at. At this point. Though, I mean, so this is where I probably would have just said, okay, I'm just going to let one Viper 2, maybe two, probably just one, just slowly pick it apart. And just keep my fighters in tight, let them, stay climbing. Because one of the things I like about this fleet when I put it together, what do I care if a target's below me? My firepower for targets below me is basically the same thing for targets above me.
Yep.
You have two fewer guns. You have a little less armor. But it really doesn't matter too much. And with, making sharp turns, if we look, he's broadside onto me still. I haven't actually gotten so far below he can't shoot at me. And this game's been going for a while. So, you can let this fleet climb. Keep that
I
flag
suppose
imposing.
this is also a very legitimate thing to bear in mind. If you're going to play a balanced fleet, bring snacks.
Well, especially if you're doing it as Cylons with Argos. Argos matches are never quick. So here we go. He's...
Hull compromised.
Yeah, one of your Revenants is starting to take fire, and that is not good.
Oof. Yeah, what
So
did...
that Revenant...
Oh, it's the...
yeah, that is the light support
Berserks.
element. Revenant. That is bad. That needs to do a sharp turn out.
Yep, we're going to do that, but I'm also going to set the focus fire on that Berserk that's
Yeah, I'd focus
punishing
fire
me.
on... The backmost Revenant can kill that Berserk. The other two Revenants, if they focus fire the Berserk underneath, they'll probably finish off the bottom one.
Oh, man.
I would turn that back Revenant to start distributing armor, because you're going to keep on taking rear hits,
Well...
and your navigation's going to get screwed quick.
So you think just turn it all the way around like this?
Confirmed.
I'm afraid if I do
Well,
that, it'll end up getting caught. He'll catch up to it. Flat out.
The rear armor on that is going to take damage anyway, so the thing that we want to keep in mind for this Revenant, it may actually be a bit of a lost cause, is we want to think about how to get the most out of its armor facings whilst pouring out damage. So it's on you how you want to try to apply that in this situation.
Let's see, we're going to do that.
I think I prefer it when you don't network with the Waggle AI.
Yeah.
Scarfield.
Okay, so we're going to keep these guys
How's
hanging back.
Jupiter looking?
still pretty good. I'm not quite sure what happened to all those torpedoes, and I know he shut down like all the.
The refinery hit soaked up a lot of them.
Oh, it did, didn't it? Oh, like all of them. It looks like. Bummer. But we can try again here in a moment. I'm not even gonna bother continuing to climb with this. There's really no point. If I decide to actually use this for something, I'm just gonna have to dive back down. So, I think it's high enough. And these guys.
Now is the time for more munitions.
Adamants?
Oh god. Garfield thinks he's lost the game already.
I'm inclined to agree. I mean, if I lose...
It depends on how you handle those Revenants. Those Revenants are the cornerstone to this. One bad maneuver and he manages to do more than pick off one of those Revenants, and this is going to go badly.
Yes, if he picks off more than one, it's over. I'm gonna...
Oh, we broke his patience by the looks of it. That is another thing about running these balanced fleets, is that you can eventually break a person's patience.
And of course, this is one of the challenging things about the Argos. Even if I hadn't broken his patience, this was going to take a long time. There we go. We picked off one. Don't know that we're going to pick off the other one here. Did a lot of damage. This one's
Here comes a
going to die.
Now, here's the problem. He's saying, I'm bored being sensible. He's kind of doing a sensible thing of throwing in his fighters into this whilst the squadron battle's going down. Well, whilst the gunfight's going down. Because you can't use your Revenants to assist the fight.
By your command.
Okay, so this Revenant is gonna die. Just turn it in?
By your command.
Like that? Use what little top and front armor I got?
Yeah. And I'll make sure that it's focus fire on a target.
And yeah, let's have it focus fire on that Berserk. Pick it off. These two...
So once those Berserks are down, there goes a ton of his evasion.
Yeah. Focus fire on them.
Okay, the Revenants, if those two front Revenants are still in range of capitals, they should still be hitting capitals.
They're not, and I'm going to skate them away to pick on fighters
go
and
for
help
squadrons.
the fighters.
That's fine.
Yep.
In fact, I might be partial to having them shoot the ARPs.
The ARPs?
Actually, no.
Yeah, I would say...
just make sure that you keep going directly away from the ARPs, because if those ARPs catch your Revenants...
Oh yeah, it's going to hurt.
That is going to sting.
By your command.
And your War Driver is the only layer of protection that
And
they
I
have.
probably
Assuming he
have...
doesn't just instantly nuke it with his Vipers, which, if he's smart, he will.
Probably have enough vertical distance with these Argos now. I can start moving over the top.
Yeah.
Closing in. And I'm going to... So
the Cerberus can start thinking.
The Cerberus, I have been going, hey, let's start moving in and tease. Because I can.
Because don't underestimate those 3 heavy guns on a Cerberus. They hit like a brick.
Well, and if nothing else, if I can trick him into splitting assets off again, that's worth doing. I don't remember. Did I remember to fire the... Oh, no, that's still reloading. Okay.
8, 7, 5,
Crunch
4, 3,
and
2,
crunch.
and pop.
But I think if this is not the end of the nemesis of this adamant, it's gonna hurt a lot because I just fired both Argos at it.
Okay, the bottom adamant is gonna go pop. But now we've got the issue with the Revenants. Is he committing to that fighter brawl?
His fighters are still here anyway.
Right. If he's commit and always retarget your squadrons every single round to go for the most vulnerable Viper.
Yeah. All right. So I'm gonna let the Revenants go after there.
And as predicted, he just immediately pancaked the first. The War Driver. That's to be expected.
Yeah. That.
Now, you've got 2 choices here. The Revenants can continue to assist with the squadron battle, considering he's actually mobilized everything, and he's got 11 Vipers on you, I believe.
Total Viper count is 10 when he started. I don't know what it's at now.
Right.
I can look.
10 Vipers on you? Well, yeah, if he's got 10 Vipers on you, you're not going to
He's
win
down
that
at
fight
least
even
one.
with Revenant support.
So you think you just go ahead and start
The
engaging?
Revenants continue to fire on them, but they need to be arcing towards the capitals to get ready to start shredding them, because this may very quickly devolve into a battle of attrition. Because once the Revenants are gone and your squadrons are gone, those Vipers and the
I
Arcs
can't
are going
kill
to
him with the
straight for
missiles.
the Argos.
Yep.
So they can help out whilst they're making the turn, but you've got to start getting damage onto those capitals. Does the Nemesis have anything to say? It does.
It does indeed. And there's nothing in the way now. And I'm actually going to even dive to let the...
Because if you can
missiles.
crack the fire control on that Jupiter, the Nemesis can drop and start hacking
Launch
something.
sequence activated.
Because that Battlestar artillery is about the only thing that's troubling you.
Yeah, no, he's probably only going to have one, maybe wanting to beat up Adamant after this.
And that's not going to be able
Atlas
to
are scary,
launch a
but
suited gun at
they're
it.
not nearly as scary gun-wise as two Revenants are. We're definitely, I think, gonna... Crunch, crunch.
That Adamant's toast.
Oh yeah, it's got nothing. There's more missiles coming in. It's gonna die. Yeah, he dodged the torps though. Look at that, beautiful dodge.
Such is the problem of firing from a
Directly above.
directly. If you're straight from the side or directly above, it's very easy to just turn or go up and down and dodge them.
Yeah.
So, which is why the Nemesis does need to be closer. Well, actually, it doesn't matter now. It's exhausted its torpedoes.
Yeah, he's down to 3, which is not enough to crack his armor. Disappointing. Bit of a misplay on my part there. So
the fight
I
battle
think not well for me, I'm sure. I'm going to have the Revenant start picking on that. And so let's see, I've got one at full, two more at near full, and those are even the Mark 1s, not the Mark 0s. Well, 2 of them are. And 3 more at about half each. Let's see.
So this has basically turned into a burn race.
Yep. So we'll go ahead and target the beat up thing. This is probably going to die, and of course that means all the evasion there goes away.
Argos reload.
Argos, yes, we are good to fire.
And that top adamant needs to die.
Top of adamant? Okay.
I mean, you might have... he might still be able to flick-flack you. And stop the missiles coming in.
Yeah.
Until you get directly above that Jupiter, you're still pretty vulnerable to flick-flack because the Jupiter just has a ridiculous flak field. But you may very well be able to snipe off that other Adamant. Then your Revenants start taking out the Atlas, and you just start closing the noose on it.
Okay, so he's probably going to enter into gun range on his own this turn. I'm going to kind of do this.
I would, make sure that you're still doing your verticals in case he decides to pull.
He's actually out.
Oh, is he expended?
He's got 6 left on each adamant. But of course this one
he'll
is
never
not going to survive long enough, and I
never get to use.
Yeah, but yeah, he's cooked on torpedoes. So okay, all right. Well, that actually almost saved this adamant. That flak did, not quite, but almost.
I mean, if the Nemesis can get into range of the Jupiter and hack its armory out, that'll be another way to call game on this.
Yep. So we gotta start descending.
So I'd preemptively just transfer power to tech bay.
Yeah.
So you can be checking every round to see.
It's going to be descending for a while, so I'm going to wait till I get the last few.
Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet?
Off. Okay. How's this doing? Oh, we're barely scratched it so far this turn.
Yeah, you've literally only just entered gun range. So you just got to make sure that you keep
By your
at
command.
max range, basically. Oof. Raiders are starting to show.
By your command.
That they're only raiders? Yeah, they
Yep.
are.
Squadron is offline.
Definitely the greater firepower difference between 2 Atlas and 2 Revenants showing in there.
Oh, yes.
And that's the end of our raiders.
Well, this gunfight's got to wrap up real quick.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's going to wrap up fast enough.
By your command.
Is the Cerberus still closing to help?
It is. It's still making its way over, making its way downtown. But he's running away from the Cerberus. And of course, Atlas, slow as they are, about the same speed as the Cerberus, so I'm not catching up anytime soon.
I mean, the bright side to this is you still have both of the Argos, and you've got rid of most of his mobile assets. So he's still going to be running through a constant problem of trying to protect from both Argos and send out enough squadrons to deal with them at the same time.
Yeah.
Revenant hull compromised.
Oof. Oh, it looks like he even just barely made range with the Jupiter there, too. Definitely time to run away faster. But I think he may have won this one.
Not
Good.
sold
We
yet.
do have.
Now is where I'd start dropping them onto the Jupiter.
Now, here's the other thing I can do here.
Yeah, no. Don't even need to power the hangar. Buy hangar.
Yep. And we can go ahead and do this.
Distribution complete. Systems have been updated. Confirmed. By your command.
And hey, 3 torps.
3 torps is 3 torps, man, you know? And honestly, if nothing else, if it can draw fighters away from not trying to shoot down missiles, every bit counts.
Revenant hull compromised.
Boom! Crunch goes the first Atlas.
Mm-hmm.
And he is chasing...
Coming in with the squadrons. So,
So here's where
here's
I'm
the thing that you can do with incoming squadrons. You can screw with the pathfinding of squadrons by doing a sharp turn into them and cut their strafe short. If you run away from Vipers, they spend the entire turn shooting at you.
I'm not sure he's going to get much of a turn to shoot at me this turn, so I'm going to keep running away and try and pick off that ARP. He did avoid the torps again, but that's fine.
Yeah, such is life. Like, it looked dicey, but it's It's still very much up in the air.
By your command.
Yeah, the fact that I've got both Argos directly above him now is gonna start making things painful.
That is what they would call scary shit.
Yeah.
We do not want Argos directly above you.
And of course he's not got a whole lot of fighters left here. Well, actually, he does have a pretty decent number. Yep, this is why we're glad we run away. But next turn I definitely need to turn into him.
That says Revenants are going to start. Well, the back one's already feeling it.
Yeah.
Because it's just had a turn of free fire. So what I do on that back one is fully power its engineer and make a sharp turn. Because the problem with how far away that you've got, the Revenants are no longer dealing damage to the capitals, and as soon as you finish off those capitals, it's game.
Yep, I think.
I would not pull power from fire control on that.
Pull from that. Oh, right, that makes sense.
Because you want all of the accuracy that you can before it finally gives out.
And let's have it pick on this guy. You are not going to be in gun range of anything over there, so go ahead and pick on this guy as well.
What does the Cerberus have to say about this?
The Cerberus is going to go for that. Look at that!
Oh, did you finally crack the top?
We cracked the
Oh,
top!
yeah.
Oh, let's
dear.
do it! Let's do it, folks!
Calculating.
Actually, I don't even... Yeah, we'll go ahead and keep climbing.
By
It
your
doesn't...
command.
Being further above won't really hurt us.
I mean, the Argos still want to try and maintain some level of distance
Yeah.
because of the squadron involvement.
Yep. But with cracking the top of that, I can actually start using the Cerberus to lay fire into it and keep its fire control down.
Well,
if I can get
the
the
angles
Cerberus
might get a
over
bit squiffy. The angles might be a bit squiffy for doing that, but it will contribute damage.
Hull compromised.
He pulled flak up, but just too far above. And crunch. There goes all the fire control. I did lose that one Revenant. Like so. And... oh, man. What do I shoot at?
Honestly, at this point, the biggest pain in the ass that you've got is all of the health on that Atlas still.
Yeah.
The Jupiter's top is cracked. The Adamant is pretty squishy. The
Well,
Atlas is a brick.
Yeah. Well, we'll set the focus fire there. You're gonna come in over the top. Because you have no top armor yourself and want to hit the fire control anyway.
It doesn't really have much of any armor.
Can you hack yet? No, not yet. Just
Are we
so
there
far
yet?
above.
Are we there yet?
And honestly, there we go. If he wants to waste firepower on the Nemesis, more power to him. Yes. Let's crack the top armor on the Adamant. Because if we can crack the top armor and do even just a little bit of fire control damage, I'm okay with that.
Confirmed.
And still, once the Vipers finish up with your Revenant, and they have to come deal with the Argos, they still have to crunch through a lot of hull.
Right.
See, Garfield's been saying Digitosis, he doesn't realise how close this match has actually got.
Oh yeah.
Revenant hull compromised.
All that is hurting.
Yeah.
But because you've had the turn into the Squadrons, now I would drop the altitude sharply, power from navigation to engineering, and I'd just drop sharp left whilst maintaining fire on that Atlas. So left tight down, but keeping the guns on target with it. So even if it's a really tight turn into itself, just so it screws with the pathfinding on those Vipers for another turn, and you put fire out onto the Atlas.
Confirmed.
There we go. That should work nicely. You're gonna keep coming in straight over the top. He's actually got a lot of the. You know what?
Ooh, he's got 10 fire control. You
Yeah.
want to be careful how close you get, because if he stops repairing for a turn, he can just pep you with
He
BSR.
probably will at this point.
Calculating.
Can you hack? Nope.
Are we there yet? No. Ah, we do have some more guided to drop onto the dupe. What's his hull at?
112. Haven't softened it up too much yet.
They're still going to take some time. The thing is, technically speaking, with time, you'll win this, but time is something you don't have a lot of, so...
Yeah. Just because he's got the fighters.
Nemesis hull compromised.
So those AP missiles not doing a lot of damage, of course, but, you know.
Revenant's going to get another turn of fire.
Yep. And we are starting, and we ate through the right armor on...
Which means the fire
This.
control on the Atlas is being kicked in the teeth as well. The Serb may be one of the clinchers for this.
It
What a time to be alive.
It might be, and that is glorious. Oh, that is glorious. So yeah, he's got the. He didn't fire the.
No, he
kept
repaired for
repairing,
the
and
time.
honestly, I think he probably should have.
So
He'll
here's the
get
thing about
he'll get a
fire
lot of
control.
fire. this
For those
turn,
that
but-
may not be aware, when it comes to fire
By your
control,
command.
having a damaged fire control affects your accuracy and it affects your range. It does not affect your
Oh.
rate of fire.
Hey, something hit this.
So you
Oh,
will-
the
so you
ARPs
will
hit
still-
this. The ARPs caught up to the Nemesis. Oh, look at it. It's tenderized nicely.
Tasty. So yeah, if you get enough repairs on your fire control to be in range, you can still fire at full rate of fire and just spit rounds out at the enemy, even if your accuracy and range isn't that great.
Nothing to hack yet. Still too high up anyway. Yeah.
Like, he could have gone to disable the fire control on one of your Argos, which
Oh
would
god.
suck.
Oh no, he does have more missiles still. On this one. 12 damage. Or 12 missiles. They're what, 2 damage each?
Yes, so that's
So
24 damage.
he can kill this.
Technically.
Well, and if nothing else, even if he gets he can almost kill it just with the guns.
But the guns-
20 hit points is not a lot.
Revenant hull compromised. Nemesis hull compromised.
Oh yeah, there's the BSR tick.
Cerberus hull compromised.
The Cerberus is not the common target. Oh man, look at this. The sucker hanging in there. Doing its best.
Revenant is being delightfully stubborn.
By your command.
I would stay nose on, just
yeah.
for that last shred of armor. to
19
do
armor.
its
Yeah,
thing.
and I'm trying to get it so that the Vipers hit, bottom and rear and stuff.
Within the first 3 seconds of the round, that Revenant's gone. It's lasted
Probably.
a lot longer than you would think it would, because it's been playing into the AI of the Vipers. It's basically been pushing them. It's something that you can do if you get a large group of squadrons getting into combat with a capital. If you turn into the squadrons, you can screw with the AI. So if someone starts doing that to you, the response is to pull back for a turn and then come back in with another full strafe.
And okay, so we have
You can't even hack.
yeah, like I can't hack because I'm too
Like,
far over.
So much of this is riding on the Cerberus now. What a goddamn time to be alive.
I know, this is great. I love it. Oh.
It's beautiful.
Revenant hull compromised.
Like, I'm
Oh
not sure
yeah,
what's
crunch.
happening
There
here
it
at this
goes. It
point,
did
but I love
not. It didn't even make it 3 seconds.
Yeah.
Oh, but we got the Jupiter.
Nemesis
Oh god.
Hop.
What is going on? What is this world we live in that we're using?
Cerberus, man. Don't underestimate the Cerb.
Oh, I don't even know, man. I don't even know. Oh, what a
Oh
time.
man, get that fire control off that adamant, man.
That's.
The adamant must be stopped.
Oh, I don't even know. All right.
I know the Argos have got tubes ready, but nothing to put in them. Oh god,
Oh.
it's all going so horribly wrong.
Oh. This was incredibly close.
What a meme of a match, I love it.
Cerberus hull compromised.
And there, yep, he's gone ahead, tasked some fighters to AMD, left some to. Oh man, this was so close.
It's still not over.
It's not over.
The Argos do have one more thing that they can do, and that is close to point blank range, so interception can't happen.
And
And because it's all top armor,
well,
which means
and you know
need to
what else?
you need to start dropping.
That's what I'm doing now. If I can knock it out so that he's only got 1 ship left and I have 2 Argos, and I can get close enough, I can FTL ram.
Do the old. The thing is, FTL has very little vertical distance.
Right. That's why, like, I have to get way down. Okay, so.
I'd see if you can polish off the adamant.
Yeah, I was debating if I wanted to do 1 each.
They'll get intercepted if you do one each.
Yeah, and
They're probably
honestly,
gonna get intercepted anyway. He's got
I'm
enough
better
fighters
off
for it.
trying to get not even bothering to fire the guided missiles, get AP missiles on like the top armor of this Atlas first. Oh, I'm hitting the rear instead of the top. That's disappointing. Oh, hey,
Oh,
he
each
turned.
each
He
time you
turned
see one
in.
of those-
He turned in.
Ooh, Cerberus is.
Oh
Cerberus
man,
is considered-
running out of armor is what it's doing.
Just go for it, Cerberus.
You can do it, buddy.
Yep, just keep flicking that side. Keep on firing them heavies. And
Okay.
keep on dropping
AP
them
missiles,
Argos.
fire there. AP missiles, fire there.
And be mindful you don't accidentally AP your own Cerberus.
Yeah.
Won't do much, but it will waste munitions.
Well, it'll waste a little bit of top armor I've got.
Oh god, yeah, and that'll start hitting your fire control.
Yeah.
Cerberus hull compromised.
Oh no, he's getting away! No! Oh yeah, he turned away, let the rear armor take the hits again. Rear and I don't know what else is taking the hits. Oh, no, actually. We're gonna get it on the missiles. He didn't task anything to defend it. We're gonna get it. Alright, cool, okay.
Is there enough damage in those armor piercers to finish it?
Those aren't armor piercers, those are guided.
But those guided. If those are guided, then that's
Those are
scrap.
guided, yeah, it's cooked. Alright, okay. So,
Calculating.
this can start firing on that now. Let's see.
Like, what is happening in this goddamn match?
Who has missiles here? He has 12. He's got 2 fighters over the top of me, but he's probably.
But just to kind of iterate in this match, Garfield had a vastly superior fighter force, and we've still been able to do something about it.
Yeah.
Just because you have the fighter advantage does not mean that you necessarily have the game.
Yeah.
By your command.
You have to have enough to actually.
Cerberus hull compromised.
Alright, so this is all those AP missiles raining down. Not all of them got through, but quite a few did. Oh, but we are running out of hit points finally on this Cerberus. It is.
Yeah, Cerberus is gonna pop.
it is running out of armor
By
here.
your command.
The stats on this game is gonna look. It's gonna be something.
We don't have
just
any
gotta-
munitions, but we should have some next turn.
Just got to keep dropping and watch that none of the asteroids become line of fire issues.
Yeah.
Oh, there is so much distance to cover.
So yeah, I know. I like,
Cerberus
and of course I.
compromised.
Oh no, he is climbing, isn't he? Is he climbing? Yeah, he's climbing.
He might be going for his Garfield traditional. I'm going to try and ram you.
Oh man, look at this. It's 4 hit points. He needs.
By
What is that?
command.
4 hits from the medium guns. Is that right? I think that's right. With 2 medium guns, he'll get pretty quick there. Oop,
So
let's not ram
what I would
ourselves
do
here.
is
Calculating.
I would not actually fire any munitions until he mobilizes his Vipers. Until he gives them an
Until
explicit
he,
move order.
yeah, because they're all
They're
clearly
all-
defending right now.
Yes. Well, the moment that he gives an actual move order,
Cerberus hull
or
Well,
an
I
attack
can
order,
fire
is
far
where you'll
more than
have-
6 at a time anyway. So if he
Yeah.
waits until I've got, oh my god, look at how much damage I'm getting in before it finally died. Those 3 heavy guns,
Oof.
man. All right, so, and of course he's got no top armor at this point. We're gonna come around this
Oh
way.
god, if you make it to that asteroid field, that's going to be a pain in the ass.
Yeah, I gotta. All right, we can do this. I mean, at this point, he's got so
The
few
moment-
hit points.
the moment
The
he cocks
AP
with those
missiles.
Vipers, it's game.
Oh, how
Yep,
many
he's
did
got
he?
no top. He's got no top armor.
He's still got a decent bit. And here's the other thing: is if I fire the missiles this turn, he's got time. You know, if he were to issue a defend with 2 of these now, he would just shoot down all the missiles. No sweat. So I think we're just gonna let him hit me this turn. I think. Oh, I can tactical jump here.
Yep.
Get a
and
little
don't
more
forget,
drop.
You can divert power away from your fire control whilst you're not using
Right.
it. Get some more squeeze out of your jump.
Systems have been updated. Calculating.
And you are going to have to start thinking about powering engineering soon.
Oh, yes, I am. In fact, actually, let's like that.
Yep. So fire control is only going to get power when you finally release those salvos. Otherwise, it's going to be full engineering and tech bay whilst you're jumping. God help whoever plays a networked Waggle and Sprout. Little does he know is that, oh, no wait. That involve me admitting to something, but I'm not a Cylon.
Yep, there we go. He did.
Close.
He did it.
He almost got me. He almost got me to admit something that's patently false.
Well, he did actually pull back those 2 squadrons to defend. So, yeah, so let's see. We don't need the tech bay now.
Yep.
But we do
So
need the
it's all
engineering. And I think next turn, when we can do
A
the
false
full
strand cell.
Calculating.
munition salvo, we go for it. I want to make sure.
On the bright side, he's only dispatched 3 Vipers to start shooting close. So, damage-wise, he's not really doing a massive amount.
Yeah. What's on the
The
bottom?
nuts-
What do I have? Is it
The not-so-bright
Tech bay?
side
armory?
is that these asteroids are going to be a problem, so you need to maneuver to account for them,
Yeah.
or you're going to have issues.
Yep. And yeah, it looks like he has realized he over-obligated. Oh man, look at that. Oh, that's bad. All right, so I think
Well, sorry, you have the durability to have patience with this.
yeah.
You're
Let's
probably going to get 2 salvos before it all goes south.
What is on my bottom? Is it? That's not my armory, is it?
Don't think so.
Fire controls rear.
Yeah. Navigation's front. Stand by.
Let's see.
It is.
Repairs.
Oh, it's engineering.
Engineering. Okay. Yep. Painful, but bearable. With 280 hull points, even without any engineering, it's going to take him a while.
Yeah,
Okay.
he'd have to focus all of his squadrons to start really doing notable damage. But if he focuses all of his squadrons, he loses his protection, and it will take only like about 5 guided missiles, and he's toast.
Yeah. Yeah, what do my guided missiles do? 2 each? So I need 10.
No, guided missiles for Cylons do 3.
3? Oh, okay. Alright, so now do I want to lead with the APs or follow with the APs? Because they're faster. Let's say lead.
No, Cylon guided missiles do 4, not 3.
Oh, are Colonials 5?
The
Colonials
same
are
for
5.
torpedo. Yeah,
Hmm.
because
Okay.
Colonial guided missiles were kind of meh, so they got bumped up to 5. And
Okay.
the Cylon ones got bumped up as well.
Oof. He's keeping.
If you don't, you're going to have to go right if you
Calculating.
Yep.
want those missiles to have line of sight.
And of course, we need to full power to fire
Systems
control
have
this
been
turn.
updated.
On the bright side, engineering will be a moot point soon anyway, so your power distribution is going to become a very simple decision.
And looks like he might be. Oh, he's not descending. Ooh, no. Yep, that might be what costs me this match, but we'll see.
Depends on how well the interception goes. Remember, you've still got like nearly you got over 600 hit points worth of Argos to burn through,
Yep.
and you have salvos in the pocket. This is not over yet, and
No.
you are closing the distance.
Yep. Okay.
Oh, yeah, right, Colonials and 6 damage. Christ, I am off game with my stats today.
Colonials are 6 with the guided? I thought they were 5, because I thought you had 20 in a salvo. Oh, Ghost Pig said that they do 6. Oof. So they do 24
Right, yeah,
damage in a salvo.
because a Janus can do 60-60
Alright.
with
Missiles
AP
come
guided.
racing down. They did all get intercepted. But I definitely taught them, gotta be careful with bringing even just a few fighters. And
Gotta keep dropping. Attack jump is available.
it is, which means that gets dropped, that gets pulled. Same, drop and pull.
Argos hull compromised.
And it's important that until engineering hits single digits that you don't repair it.
Distribution complete.
Let's see, now is there enough of an extra distance here that I should fire these this turn and those next turn?
Quite possibly. He's just got them on raw defenders. It may provide enough of a branch off.
Because I want him to hit the same turn. Let's say we're going to do this. Fire one and not the other. Nah, let's just... I think dump.
How much health does that Atlas have again?
18.
Argos
I guess...
18.
Oh, you know what happened? Why is that 18? Defensive fire pulled some shots down into it.
Yeah.
Look at that. We might actually... That actually is turning out well. I'm glad I went in and fired both.
calculating.
And... There we go. Oh, that's actually just as much as I can power engineering because it's
Systems
getting
have
shot
been
up.
Yeah.
Um,
And for the viewers at home, do remember that if you repair a subsystem, you also deactivate it for the most part, with the exception of one or two. So if you repair your engineering, you will lose any damage resistance that you currently have.
we scored hits! Oh man,
got it?
some of it was only AP missiles, but we did score a couple of hits there. It's down to 8.
Oh,
It's
that
down
is
to
getting
8.
dicey.
Yeah,
But now
the
he's starting
shorter
to burn
range
through a
making
hole.
it. Yeah, the shorter range making it harder for him to
By
harder
the
for,
time you've
less
got an
time to
effective
intercept.
reload on, by the time you've got an effective reload on the back Argos, he'll also have tack jump, so he can get back to being firmly over the top.
Yep.
So if he had a full hull Atlas, this would have been really simple. He would have just shredded you with his entire Viper Force. But because his Atlas has been so low, any mistake with his interception would cost him immediately.
Yep.
By your command.
And I'm surprised he hasn't been using the one ARP that he can rearm. Like, that
Confirmed.
would actually be... Like, they can't intercept that much anyway. And actually, that might be what he's doing here now. I don't know. I'm not going to even bother repairing the engineering just yet.
Now I'm still squeezing a bit of juice out of it, and once the engineering goes...
It can still be powered for 15 points.
Yeah. I mean, there is also the thing that as soon as that engineering goes, it's gone, because it'll be under constant Viper fire.
Yeah.
So there is literally no point in repairing.
Compromised.
And eventually, you'll be under medium gunfire if he's been repairing his
He
FCS.
has. Yeah, no, it's repaired up. Okay, so I could
So
fire my
this is where it
missiles,
gets
but
spicy.
I think
I wonder if attack jump had spread the fire out enough. Wouldn't even need to do that big of a jump.
yeah, I was gonna do that, but actually I don't.
Get you down a little bit further and also spread out the salvo a little.
Yeah, I think I'm not going
And
to.
the back one just needs close distance anyway.
Yeah, I think I want to wait till I can get the bigger salvo again. I don't think he's gonna kill me before then, anyway.
Confirmed.
Ooh, gotta be careful not to ram myself though.
Yeah, don't do that. That'll be bad.
But you know, I don't think he's gonna kill me before then anyway. We can go ahead and repair that because might as well.
Systems have been
Hey
updated.
there, sure, what the hell.
Yeah, right. But yeah, we'll go. Wait for the next reload to come around. Go for the bigger salvos, like we did before. I think that'll be the difference.
Yeah. And if you was going to put this into videos like YouTube, I suggest cutting it with this match before you upload it.
Yeah, this match has been not short.
Because this suddenly goes extremely technical.
Yeah, it does. I'm hitting this little rock here. All right, fine.
Well, wherever he decides to upload it, Gotti pick.
By your command.
Okay, done with the tech bay.
If you wait for that salvo from
Distribution
that Argos, you may not actually have the opportunity to fire it.
Yeah, that's
So
what
I
I'm
would
looking at
see-
here. He's got.
I would see how this pans out after this turn. Which that may actually be too late for that Argos.
Yeah, I
if he
would say I
decides to
think I may
jump,
just
yeah.
need to fire now.
Hmm.
Actually, we're gonna do this. You, then you, then
By your
you.
command.
I think that'll give me the best odds of getting the hits in that I need.
Argos hull compromised.
To think that if the Argos had literally one gun, just one
Right.
gun,
Oh man, no! We got an AP
Oh,
hit,
that's-
another AP hit, but that's it. Or maybe,
Uh-oh.
actually, I'm not even sure that second hit was an AP hit.
Calculating.
basically you're just surviving for point blank range now.
Yeah. Yeah, because of course if I can get it so that it's like walk across the missiles into range here, then he just simply won't have time to intercept. Especially if I can close it down to the last kilometer or so, the fighters won't have any distance in between
But
the
now he
ships to
knows
operate.
that you've fired, and he doesn't need to run interception now. Especially with a closing of range. Just need
Did
to
actually
turn
get to get some use out of some of the other armor faces, which is nice.
Argos hull compromised.
Yep, there's the ARP missiles. That's going to be a bit of damage that hurts. Oof,
The Atlas has
oof,
gone down
oof.
to 3. Oh, I think I know why the Atlas has gone down to 3 hull. So when ARPs fire their guns,
Calculating.
they fire both their forward and back guns.
Oh, do they always fire both?
I think so, yes.
Oh, that'd be interesting. All right. Well, so we're definitely gonna
Distribution complete.
Oh,
wait for the bigger salvo here. Oh, what? Oh, I think it thinks I'm gonna ram my ship that's in the process of still blowing up, or still in the process of blowing up.
well, I'd err on the side of caution, never mind.
Nah, it's. I really need to get going myself
It's
anyway.
gonna be-
We've been
It's
going
going to be so funny
3
if
hours and
those
15 minutes.
ARPs end up killing it.
Oh yeah, if he kills himself with the ARPs, that
Because
would be
of the rear
funny.
guns on the ARPs. That would be, as they say, some shit.
So he knows I've got those missiles here.
By your command.
I mean, you do have the option of an AP fake out.
Oh, and like try and fire just the AP, see if he, and then goes to attack me. Yeah. Let's see. So Tech Bay. And
Oh yeah, it's time to jump. I mean, jump may also be one of the points where you can actually spread out a salvo and make it harder to intercept at close range, but yeah.
Yeah. I think probably next tactical jump that's what we'll do.
Pop up, pop up. Oh, that's why I've been firing. He's on full defense.
My fiance comments that's quite an accent. She must be watching the stream from work.
Why would she say that about your accent?
I think she's saying that about yours.
Distribution complete.
Okay. To be fair, Garfield, it is very much a lunatic brick-chewing accent that you have. It's wonderful.
Projectiles bearing
Oof,
constant.
oof, that's gonna hurt. Crunch. Yeah, that hurt.
Argos hull compromised.
That's an owie.
Yeah. Oh man. All right, we're almost.
You're not going to make it to the
Repair
tactical jump.
sequence initiated.
No,
So
that
this-
is
so this is-
unfortunate.
This is going to come down to how you deploy these missiles.
Yeah, I'm gonna wait for that reload. I think. How actually? Oh, he has all his squadrons attacking right now. Guys, he has all of them attacking.
And Garfield is definitely not listening into this.
Oh,
absolutely
he definitely is. Which is why we're whispering, but he could probably hear us anyway.
Yes, whispering on the internet definitely works.
100%. Do we? I think I can survive one more turn.
Missile distribution is your call on this.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how to do this one.
He says he unmuted once he was down to the Atlas. Yeah, that's fair.
That's fair. That's fair.
Alright. So we're actually close enough. I think the fighters are getting in the way. or the Atlas is getting in the way of him being able to use the fighters. Oh
You
my
know
God.
what would be really, really dumb though?
What?
Is if the arcs of the missiles don't let you hit the top armor now.
That would be dumb.
Hilarious.
Confirmed.
So the good news here is, at least by waiting, if I'm still alive by the time I get to my next reload on the missiles,
Bear in mind, if he does go for the ram...
oh my God! Oh, look at this spin. And I think he is.
Oh, that is some spin.
Oh, I got one hit. Oh, alright, well, so I can survive a ram and he can't. Which I think is what this fuck it is here, is he's deciding to just end it and ram me.
Confirmed.
And yeah, we're gonna do it. Cause... yeah.
I'm sure he'd have it.
Oh,
no
hey,
other
I'm
way.
not sure where the camera just ended up.
Goodbye, camera.
Right. So yeah, we will, everything is a torpedo if you try hard enough. Yep.
Argos hull compromised.
Clump. I love how his arc missiles even hit the poor Atlas. Oh, okay. Yeah, that was interesting. Disappointing that the missiles wouldn't hit the top and finish it off there, because definitely at that range he wasn't going to get the interception.
That was most certainly a match. How'd the Cerberus do?
Yeah, let's... So Argo's top at 504. I'm not sure how this works out. Oh, because of the ramming? But no, then that damage shouldn't count from the munitions. Yeah, whatever. This one, 365, still pretty good. Cerberus, 324 damage from the guns on the Cerberus.
That's my Cerberus. Don't underestimate him, man. That can do work.
Yeah, I just, like, wow, that's impressive. 443 on a Revenant. Only 105.6 on this Revenant. 253. Nemesis,
Yeah, so the Revenants do
64
just
from
probably,
the Nemesis. Yeah, we
What the
messed with a
Nemesis
lot of those
did was
torpedoes.
just enough to screw over the Jupiter.
Yeah. Yeah, that one turn there where it did score those top armor hits. So there you go, guys. There was a perhaps slightly more in-depth examination than we were originally going for here.
Bear in mind that this has just demonstrated that after the latest DLC and the patches that have been done and the such, Garfield has just run a fleet that has given my old tournament fleet a run for its money. So the meta has clearly shifted.
Yeah, 100%. Cannot just take it for granted anymore. I think it'd be interesting to swap out like Nemesis and a Revenant for like a couple of Talons or something. Get an extra couple of Squadrons in. You know, but yeah, that was good. It does explain some of my sometimes hesitation when going against Argos fleets, just because it's difficult to end them in a timely manner. Though that one was not the worst. That was like an hour and a half-ish. Yeah, about an hour and a half. Not the worst I've ever seen. So thank you all very much for joining us. Once again, my name is Sergeant Z-Dog. I am one of the moderators at the Battlestar Galactica Deadlock Discord server. I am competing in the tournament. You can catch me next time. I will be streaming this evening at 9:30 U.S. Central, 7:30 U.S. Pacific, 3:30 a.m. GMT tonight. I will be streaming my tournament match on the Slytherin Group Twitch channel. And that is against Mech Slayer 1. Thank you again, Sir Wagglepuss III, for joining us. And appreciate the advice on how to play really what is a very capable fleet that has some finer points that are difficult to get right. And that was really interesting to get some close one-on-one advice. And I hope everybody takes the time to listen in on as much of that match as they have. I will get this video uploaded to YouTube for a while. It will be on View on Demand here on Twitch for a couple of weeks. If you guys would like to see more of my regular Battlestar Galactica streams where I just do actual play and not teaching stuff, I will be streaming at 9 and noon U.S. Central tomorrow. Thank you for the follow, Goody Pig. And keep an eye out for more of these training streams. We will do more as available. As available. Hopefully we can get one in Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday or maybe multiple days next week. Next week is, of course, Thanksgiving week. Well, so it won't be Thursday or Friday or Saturday. It might be Sunday, but it definitely won't be Thursday, Friday, or Saturday next week, because that is Thanksgiving. I will be out of town.
Just out of curiosity, do we know what subject material we're going to be covering with the next one?
So for the next one, let's plan on probably going into in-depth on the different Colonial ships. I think that will be a good place to go next. We'll do in-depth on Colonial ships for the next session. The session after that, we'll do in-depth on Cylon ships, and then we'll start discussing more of kind of the specific matchups. So, if you've got, Kratos versus a Jupiter 2, or, 3 Revenants versus, I don't know, 2 Atlas, kind of some of the specific matchup stuff that requires, playing a ship maybe a little differently than you usually do. So, yeah. Next session, Colonials. Session after that, Cylons. And then we'll start doing specific matchups the third session after that. And then we'll either do, I don't know, more matchups if we need more time, and then maybe get into some meme fleets. Go into 4K fleet building.
We'll see.
Yeah, after we do matchups. 4K stuff, things can get kind of screwy, so it's a little more complicated, and I can't just give straight up, this is what you should definitely do. Because 4K fleet building, memes become a lot more effective at 4K. than they are at 8K. At 8K, it's easily possible enough, even with focused fleets, to be able to run enough mix in your fleet to counter memes. Whereas at 4K, it's harder to get enough mix in your fleet to be able to counter the memes. So 4K fleet building is a very different topic that is something we can probably cover, but not till we cover some more of the stuff that some more of the 8K fundamentals.
Just a personal question before we wrap up. Have you ever actually used Revenants quite like that before yourself?
Not much. Mostly just because I prefer to win by fighter domination and not trying to skate those
With a sledgehammer.
edges. Well, so I mean, we saw there just how difficult it is to skate those edges. Like, the Revenant can kind of skate that edge, but it's just a few hundred meters. Like, it's literally less than the length of a ship.
Mm-hmm.
The Mantacor's what, like 350 meters long or something like that? Like, that's
Yeah.
how small a margin you're trying to draw there. And the Revenant
Like,
just is not that durable. It's really not. We saw how quick even 3-4 fighters was.
it comes to a point where with this dancing at the edge of range, you'll spend less time dancing with the actual range itself rather with the position of the enemy guns on their ship.
Right.
It comes to a point where you're playing with, you only want the front guns on a Battlestar artillery to skirt the range from the Jupiter, and you don't want its top or bottom guns to join in, and you want to skirt that bracket.
Yeah.
It starts playing at that kind of thing. With
Yeah,
the Revenant.
yeah, where you're letting only individual guns, not even like an entire battery. So, like if you are in range of the top, only the front four are firing and not the back four on that top battery of artillery. Yeah, it is that kind of skirting where, it's definitely doable. It's just not necessarily something I want to take the time to do. I'd much rather just like have the Cerberus, have the extra fighters win the fighter battle, and then just pick them apart with the fighters. That sort of thing.
I live for that kind of fine play.
Yeah.
That's kind of my approach to it. That's how I take a lot of my matches, and I've probably drove a lot of people insane with the fact that I basically take the full turn timer every single round that I play, because I'm running the predictions on how I'm going to set all of that up, and I'm doing it every time because I stay in practice with that. I have to.
Yeah, and I mean,
don't do stuff like that, a lot of my fleets just don't work.
And certainly, I probably, at least if the fighter battle had been able to be closer, it probably would have made more sense to kind of keep the Revenants a little further out. Just say, okay, I may not get to fire some turns. It may be that some turns I am just too far out of range and they don't get to fire their guns.
Yeah, in fact, if anything, with that match, we may have actually got a bit too greedy with the Revenants.
Yeah. No, I think I probably did, especially with that first one that died. I really probably shouldn't have had it in range. I probably should have just said it's at the very least not going to get to fire its broadside, and it's just going to boot scoot boogie. It would have been out of range the turn, or gotten already out of range on the turn that it started taking damage. Still would have taken some damage, but it would have been out of range at the end of the turn instead of still in range. So, yeah.
We could spend the next hour doing a replay breakdown on this. So, I imagine you got things to do.
I do. This has been a wonderfully enlightening. I hope everyone learned a lot. 3.5 hour stream. And I look forward to seeing you guys all this evening for my tournament match against MechSlayer 1. Again, that's going to be on Slytherin Group. So if you guys haven't already followed Slytherin Group, go follow them. On Twitch, they are Slytherin Group, not Slytherin. Slytherin is another user. I don't know. So look for Slytherin Group. If you haven't already hopped into the Battlestar Galactica Deadlock Discord, you can do that. Notice here on the multiplayer, there's a button you can click. It will take you straight there. I will announce when I'm starting up the stream for Slytherin Group. I will tag at everyone because it is an official stream. look forward to seeing you there. Look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow for my streams then. I will talk to you guys later. Sergeant Z-Dog signing off.